welcome back to the webinar session. I can see a couple of our colleagues are back in the chats, and a pleasure to have you all. My name is Bob Nwajira. I work with the IGAD Secretariat in the Division of Health and Social Development, and the Communications Officer. And it is my pleasure to be your moderator this morning. I would like to know whom we have in the chat. So I request you just introduce yourself in the chat room. We want to know you. We want to know which media house you represent. We want to know which country, which member state you are reporting from. Feel free to give us any additional information that you feel relevant. But it's a pleasure to have you this morning. I can confirm that a couple of people are here, and it's good to see colleagues all the way from South Sudan. John from iRadio in South Sudan, Selema Witz from Pulse, Shise, Mohammed from Star FM in Kenya, and all of you colleagues, please give us your name and let us know that we are there. Julius Buchana from Uganda, and thank you so much. And including our colleagues, our experts from IGAD, from ILO, please introduce yourself in there, and we shall be following through this morning. Now, I know it's about 9 minutes past the hour of 10, and I can see most of our colleagues are here. The ILO colleagues, the IGAD Secretariat colleagues, and our boss, our Deputy Executive Secretary is also here, His Excellency. It is a pleasure to have you this morning. I will share the agenda such that, we are aware of the agenda, the draft agenda as we shall have it this morning. And I believe you are able to see my screen. We're starting with the opening remarks. We'll just briefly highlight the objectives and the expected outcomes and outputs of this meeting. And then we shall run through the different sessions that shall follow in the brief time that we have this morning. And because our timelines are a little bit strict, we will progress through the first session, the second session, the third session, and then we will have a plenary session where we will have maybe questions or comments. So while our colleagues and the experts are going through some of these sessions, take the notes, and then we will be taking up the questions, the comments in one session. And then we will go through section 4 and section 5, and then we will proceed also through the question and answer session before we have the way forward and the closing of the sessions. So it's a pleasure again to have you this morning. And a special thanks to the partners who are with us in the room, the International Labour Organization team that is here with us and has been such a great implementing partner in so many aspects. And I will have also my colleagues come through at a point. As for now, I just want to double check my audios, and our admin, if you give me a thumbs up, then I will go to the second part of this agenda. Austin, if you give me a thumbs up, I will go to the second part of the agenda, and we are good. Thank you. I have the thumbs up. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is to thank you. I see a couple of colleagues who have just joined us right now. And then this is the Regional Media Sensitization Workshop ahead of the IGAD Media Awards for 2026. And I think we will be getting much more detail. But as we start our sessions, allow me welcome our Deputy Executive Secretary to deliver the opening remarks, such a supportive leader that we've had. And Excellency, let me welcome you to unmute your video and welcome us all and take us through the next sessions. You're welcome, Excellency.
Thank you very much. Distinguished members of the media, journalists, creators, communication professionals, IGAD colleagues, I would like to welcome you to this Regional Media Sensitization event for the IGAD Media Awards for the year 2026. I would particularly also like to invite our partners in this event, IOM and others who are really not only indispensable for us in this event, but throughout the work we do working with the issue of human mobility. Colleagues, this engagement marks an important step in the preparation for the next edition of the IGAD Media Awards, which this year will be held in Kampala, Uganda in November under the theme of human mobility for regional integration, free movement, decent work, protection, and shared prosperity. Across the IGAD region, human mobility is not an abstract policy. It is part of the daily life. People move for work, for trade, for education, for family, for pastoral livelihoods, for safety, and for opportunity. At the same time, our region continues to host millions of refugees, asylum seekers, internally displaced persons, and other people impacted by conflict, climate shocks, and economic pressures. Colleagues, for IGAD, migration and forced displacement must not be understood through crisis, irregularity, insecurity, humanitarian impact. But human mobility is also about regional integration, labor markets, remittances, skills sharing, livelihoods enhancement, social cohesion, protection, and ultimately dignity and shared prosperity for all. This is why, my brothers and sisters, the role of the media is important. The stories you tell shape how the public understands migration and displacement. They influence conversations at the family level and at the policy level. They can either deepen fear and stigma, or they can positively promote fact-based dialogue, dignity for people, empathy, and ultimately sustainable solutions. Through this sensitization event, IGAD seeks to support journalists and media practitioners to report on migration, labor mobility, forced displacement, and regional integration with accuracy, context, and responsibility. The objective, ladies and gentlemen, is to strengthen the capacity of the media to produce stories that are evidence-based, human-centered, rights-based, and policy-informed. We are particularly encouraging reporting that goes beyond crisis narratives. We need stories that show the full picture of mobility in our region. The challenges, yes. but the opportunities, the resilience, and the contributions and aspirations of migrants, refugees, IDPs. We also need to tell stories from the perspective of host communities, for pastoralists whom movement is an integral part of their life, and particularly from women and young people. Colleagues, this requires responsible use of data, careful treatment of vulnerable sources, avoidance of stigmatization, misinformation, and a commitment to telling stories that protect human dignity. The IGAD Media Awards version 2026 will recognize excellence in reporting on migration for regional integration, free movement of people, labor migration, decent work, climate, and conflict induced. I think we have some interference. My apologies. The IGAD Media Awards 2026 will recognize excellence in reporting on migration for regional integration, the free movement of people, labor migration, and decent work, climate and conflict-induced displacement, women and youth in immigration, photojournalism, digital storytelling, indigenous language reporting, emerging journalism, lifetime contribution to migration and displacement, and any other stories that might interest you on these themes. We therefore encourage journalists from all IGAD member states to engage deeply on this theme and to submit strong, original, and impactful stories. We want stories that inform public debate, give voice to the affected communities, highlight policy responses, and contribute to a more balanced and understanding of human mobility. The awards, ladies and gentlemen, are not about only recognition. They are part of a broader effort to strengthen the relationship between IGAD and the media as strategic partners in public communication, policy literacy, and regional transformation. As we move towards the Kampala event, the 2026 edition will also include a knowledge share fair on migration governance, labor mobility, and regional integration. And you will hear from our migration specialists and experts from across the region. This will provide a platform for journalists, policymakers, experts, and regional institutions to exchange knowledge, build networks, and deepen public understanding. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, let me therefore make 3 appeals to the media today. First, report on migration with accuracy. Use verified data, credible sources, and proper context. Second, report migration with dignity. Behind every statistic is a person, a family, a community, and a story. Third, report migration with purpose. Help the region understand how safe, orderly, regular, and well-governed mobility can advance integration, decent work, protection, and shared prosperity. IGAD remains committed to working with journalists, editors, media houses, digital creators, and partners to promote responsible storytelling across the region. I thank all participants for joining this important conversation and encourage you to use this platform to ask questions, engage experts, and prepare stories that can contribute meaningfully to the IGAD Media Awards 2026. Together, brothers and sisters, let's tell the stories of human mobility in the IGAD region with accuracy, dignity. Let me repeat, dignity and evidence-based perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you for those remarks. And as you can tell from the visuals, our colleagues are following in remotely wherever they are. And thank you so much for the challenge and for the call to report with dignity, with evidence. And of course, colleagues, it is a pleasure again to have you this morning, and thank you so much. We will go straight to the next set of the agenda, where we are looking at the workshop objectives, expected outputs, and we will also work on adopting the agenda. But also to welcome each and every one of us who has just joined us. Thank you so much. This is a webinar on media sensitization conference for the IGAD Media Awards 2026. We've just had the Deputy Executive Secretary give us his remarks, and I will ask that the admin will paste this, will give us a link for the Deputy ES's remarks such that we can have them on record. Yes, my name is Bob Nwajira, and I'm with you this morning. Communications Officer under the Health and Social Development Division of IGAD Secretariat. I'll share my screen just to have us follow through the objectives. The objectives of this conference just about about 6 of them. One, it is to sensitize the media practitioners on the IGAD Media Awards 2026. The theme, the focus areas, the eligibility, and the expected quality of the submissions. And this comes in when we still have a full month away from the deadline, so it comes in very well. And the second objective is to improve the journalists and media practitioners' understanding of migration governance, free movement, labor migration, forced displacement, durable solutions, remittances, and regional integration initiatives under IGAD. The third is to provide journalists with technical knowledge, verified data, policy context, and policy context to support evidence-based reporting. The fourth objective is to promote ethical, human-centered, and rights-based storytelling that protects the dignity of migrants, refugees, IDPs, and the host communities. The fifth is to encourage media coverage that highlights opportunities, challenges, policy responses, and human stories within the broader human mobility agenda. And the final objective of our conference is to create a platform for dialogue between technical experts and media professionals ahead of the awards submission period. And colleagues, these are the specific objectives that this session that are driving this session. And I will just share also through the expected outcomes. Thank you. Sorry, it is not on my screen right now, but we have among the expected outcomes, I'm just making sure that you are able to follow me on the screen. So this conference or this webinar is expected to contribute to one, increased awareness of the IGAD Media Awards among journalists and media houses. The secondly, improved media understanding of migration, labor mobility, forced displacement, and regional integration, and the initiatives that we are running at IGAD. And the thirdly, stronger, more informed, and more diverse story submissions for the IGAD Media Awards for 2026. Fourth is better use of verified data, technical sources, and policy frameworks in media reporting. Fifth of our expected outcomes of this engagement is to increase the engagement between our IGAD technical experts and teams, partners, and the regional media practitioners. And finally, to have a more balanced public narrative on migration, displacement, decent work, protection, and shared prosperity. So colleagues, these are the what we would want to achieve, the expected outcomes from this conversation. And finally, from my side, quickly again, maybe for those who are joining us, who've just joined us, I will just again flash through the agenda and, we will move ahead if we adopt it as is. And we have already gone through the opening remarks, which were given by our Deputy Executive Secretary, His Excellency Ahmad Abdiware. And we are looking through the workshop objectives, expected outputs, and looking to adopt the agenda. But we will run the agenda through about 5 sessions. The first three sessions um, will follow each other as follows: the understanding of the IGAD Media Awards by our head of communication, who is with us. Austin is going to be taking us through the first session. The second session will give us a comprehensive highlight of our migration governance and regional integration at the IGAD Secretariat. And Ato Ibrahim Kasso um, and Madame Lucy Daxbacha will be taking us through that session. The third session is on labor migration, decent work and protection by our partners, ILO, and the Chief Technical Officer is here with us this morning. And thereafter, we will wrap those first 3 sessions. We shall have that plenary, the question and answer session for about 20 minutes. And then we shall head for the fourth session, which will be focusing on forced displacement, durable solutions, and host communities. And then the last session, which is about reporting migration beyond crisis narratives. And we shall be guiding you on who will be carrying us through that session. And then finally, we will have also a plenary for those 2 sessions. We'll walk through the way forward, and we would have closing coming in at the very end. So this is the brief agenda, and if there is any comment one of us would want to make, I will request that we'll put in our secretariat team and the admin IGAD communications team is taking notes. And if you think that we should go forward, I will ask those that can put up a hand, give me a hand signal, give me a thumb up, and we will be able to proceed with the agenda and with the meeting. Okay, thank you. I think I've seen the thumbs up, a couple of them over here, and thank you very much. So for now, I will stop sharing the agenda, and perhaps for us to be able to follow, we would also maybe share the link to the agenda such that every one of us is able to follow. So thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. I will be proceeding to call my boss, our head of communication, to proceed. But just to recognize those of you, if you have just joined us, please go to the chat, give us your name, your media house, and perhaps which country you are following us from. And it's good to see the different colleagues. John, I can see you. Irene Jackson over there. We can see you. Victoria Masaya, good morning. Um, Thank you so much. Muhammad Ali, thank you so much. Animu from South Sudan, we are able to follow with you. And Simon and all the colleagues who are online, thank you. So if you have just joined us in, keep adding your name and we will be following, including our colleagues from IGAD and ILO. Allow me take the pleasure to call our head of communications at the IGAD Secretariat, Austin Opata, to carry on for the next session. Austin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Bob. First of all, I would like to thank the Deputy Executive Secretary, His Excellency Mohamed Abdiwari, for gracing us here today. And hello to everyone. My name is Austin Opata, Head of Communications at IGAD. Pleasure to meet you all. My role here today will be to help you understand what the IGAD Media Awards 2026 are. So I'll move on to my presentation. So to get us started, we need to understand what the IGAD Media Awards initiative is all about. The IGAD Media Awards initiative is an annual initiative dedicated to celebrating excellence in journalism and media production across the IGAD region. Our aim is to honor media professionals. These are journalists, photojournalists, digital creators, and storytellers who contribute to responsible, human-centered, and evidence-based reporting on critical regional issues. Basically, through the IGAD Media Awards, we hope to build media capacity, advance public understanding, and recognize excellence in reporting on critical regional issues. As you now understand, the IGAD Media Awards are positioned at the crossroads of communications, governance, and public interest journalism. Since 2023, in partnership with IGAD institutions and development partners, we have rewarded stories that inform policy, communities, and citizens. In 2023, the journey began in Djibouti, our headquarters, where the focus was placed on drought resilience. We had 105 entries across 7 categories, leading to 14 winners. In 2024, the journey proceeded to Nairobi with a focus on peace and security. We had 318 entries across 9 categories, leading to 18 winners. Last year, in 2025, we were in Addis Ababa, where we focused on climate action. We had about 667 entries across 10 categories, leading to 20 winners. This year, 2026, we are heading to Uganda, and our focus is on human mobility. What you'll notice is that over the years, the awards have slowly grown from an annual recognition into a strategic media engagement and narrative transformation platform where we've had knowledge share fairs and now looking into media fellowship programs this year. Our goals are to recognize excellence by rewarding impactful journalism and storytelling across the IGAD region, to promote accuracy by encouraging factual, evidence-based, and ethical reporting, to deepen understanding by translating policy priorities into stories that citizens can understand, to build partnerships by connecting media with IGAD experts and also our partners, And also finally, to amplify the voices of the marginalized groups, which are mostly women, youth. And now this year, we'll be looking into refugees, IDPs, and host communities as well. Our target audience for the IGAD Media Awards are journalists and media practitioners in print, radio, TV, digital, and multimedia platforms. Visual storytellers as well, photojournalists, filmmakers, and multimedia producers. Digital creators as well, these are influencers, and online storytellers who shape public discourse. Community media, these are media professionals in indigenous language and broader community reporting. We are also targeting young and emerging journalists and also veteran media practitioners who have been in the game for quite a number of years. We all know that a credible process needs governance, outreach, and most importantly, an independent assessment. So with the IGAD Media Awards, we have a very simple structure governing the implementation, which is mostly steered by two independent committees. One is the Senior Management Committee, comprised of the IGAD management staff in charge of the strategic oversight. The management offers guidance, institutional clearance, and partner alignment. The other important committee, implementing committee, is an independent jury committee comprised of media experts from member states who are not staff from IGAD or partner institutions. And they're in charge of reviewing entries, scoring entries, shortlisting, and winner confirmation. The committee that's below them, this is the technical committee, comprises of technical experts who are here today with you from IGAD and also partner institutions. And the technical committee is basically in charge of drafting the concept note, the theme, the rules, the categories, event, design. You had the Deputy Executive Secretary talking about the 2 days knowledge share fair preceding the Gala Award ceremony. So this committee is in charge of the design of the 2 days knowledge share fair and also leading to the Gala Award ceremony, and most importantly, resource mobilization. Now, with all that background information, what do you need to know about the IGAD Media Awards 2026? First is that our focus this year is on human mobility as a driver of regional integration. Anytime the term migration comes into mind, we often think of crisis, but there are other sides to migration. We all know of a relative, a friend, or a friend's friend who has traveled abroad in search of greener pastures. Well, that's just another side of migration. And of course, what is common knowledge is people moving because of war or impacts of climate change, which is also another side of migration. At IGAD, we believe that migration is not only about movement, it is about integration, opportunity, dignity, and shared prosperity. The stories that we are looking for this year are stories that move beyond crisis narratives. We are looking for stories on migration as an opportunity, stories showing how mobility contributes to trade, employment, skills, integration, and shared prosperity, reporting that explains free movement and regular pathways, stories on decent work and migrant protection, reporting on refugees, IDPs, host communities, climate and conflict displacement, and long-term solutions, human-centered stories that highlight urgency, resilience, leadership, vulnerability, and contribution, content that counters misinformation, xenophobia, stigma, and fear-based portrayals of people on the move, and most importantly, data and evidence-based reporting. So at the end of it all, we'll have the celebrations in Kampala, Uganda, IGAD and IOM, IGAD and ILO, and possibly IOM in the coming few weeks. We'll host a 2-day knowledge share fair, bringing together the media, policy experts, and member state officials, where we will have a structured platform for policy dialogue, media capacity building, peer learning, and evidence-based communication on regional migration priorities. On the evening of the second day, we will host a gala award ceremony to honor the winners for their exceptional journalism and digital storytelling. This year, we have 10 award categories, ranging from migration for regional integration, free movement and regular pathways, labor migration and decent work, climate and conflict displacement, gender responsive media category, migration photojournalism, responsible digital narratives, indigenous language media, emerging journalist, and lifetime achievement award category. The perks and opportunities involved are recognition and certificates. We have cash prizes. We will also be giving access also be giving the media access to experts and networks, participation in the share fair and learning sessions, and of course, policy exposure and a potential fellowship pathway, which is still in discussions with our partners. The submission deadline is the 31st of July, 2026. There's still about 29 days to go. For more information on how to submit your work, please go to www.mediaawards.igad.int. For any inquiries that you'll have, you can send us an email at mediaawards@igad.int. Our core message is migration is not only about movement, it is about integration, opportunity, dignity, and shared prosperity. I want to encourage you to tell the story with accuracy, evidence, balance, and purpose. I thank you, and over to you, Bob.
Thank you so much, Austin. And I think that's a great exposition on the IGAD Media Awards. And I can see Boris is able to recognize Mohammed, Kosivi. Thank you. And Fabius, thank you guys. And that is the feedback. IGAD Media Awards 2026 are officially on. I can see amongst those in the audience, the past winners, past participants, and it's a pleasure. Again, this opportunity comes our way. And of course, key on the communication, the deadline is the 31st of July, and it is coming soon. Today is the 2nd of July, and I think this info share comes in handy. And for those who have participated, Nairobi, Kenya, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and this time around, the event is going to be hosted in Kampala, Uganda. And also, of course, now to the theme that is going to be taking us through this year's awards: migration, governance, forced displacement, and we will be hearing much more. So if you've been taking notes and you have a question, please keep it or put it in the chat. Our admins will be picking it up and address it to the specific discussant. If it is Austin, you can say, this is for Austin. And we will be able to pick them up after the next 2 sessions that are coming up. I will jump back again to the agenda, and I know that Ato Ibrahim Kaso and Madame Lucy are with us already. They will be taking us through the session of migration governance and regional integration, our migration portfolio, and the different initiatives that IGAD, the work that IGAD is doing in the area of migration governance and the protocol on the free movement of persons in the region. So I will split the time that we have between Ato Ibrahim Kaso. I will call on you first. Feel free to unmute, and you have a couple of minutes to yourself. Over to you, Ato Ibrahim.
Thank you very much, Bob. Good morning, colleagues. Let me recognize. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you and we can see you very well. Thank you.
Exactly. Let me recognize the presence of His Excellency Deputy Executive Secretary Muhammad Abdi Ware and also other colleagues. I can see the big turnout in the room, and this shows that the level of interest really that IGAD Media Award has in the region, and attracts the attention of many media colleagues and people from our region. So I'm happy to join this team, and good morning to all. As Bob, you are highlighted, and Austin has taken us through this year's theme is mobility, human mobility in the IGAD region. Just to take you through, my colleagues, I will also be commenting the other aspect. IGAD migration is being really considered as a region of migration, and IGAD has taken this agenda back in 2012 and developed regional migration policy framework to address the challenge of irregular migration and also to promote regular pathways to migration. Since then, a lot of effort has been done in the member state and also been at the regional level, including the establishment of national coordination mechanism to address the challenge of migration in the IGAD region and also in the respective member state. And also there are a regional consultative platform, really how member state will coordinate and address the challenge of migration more at the political level and also at the coordination level. And the other aspect of migration policy framework is how we can promote the positive aspect of migration, which is migration and the development. So the policy framework, it has 12 priority areas, among which really migration development, statistics, gender and migration, labor migration are some of the major areas that IGAD has been working on. So these various pillar areas has been implemented over the last 10 plus years at various levels with the support from international partners and development partners of IGAD. It is not only policy implementation that IGAD migration workers are dealing with. It is also reaching out to how the regular migration can be addressed along the root cause, along the migration route, and also at the countries of origin. Among these is the Regional Migration Fund Initiative, which is trying to address the root cause of migration along the major migration routes along cross-border areas by providing infrastructure facilities that can create temporary jobs for migrant local communities and also migrants, mobile migrants themselves. The other aspect of migration that IGAD has been doing, I think you will get more from the document, is that the promotion of labor migration issues in collaboration with regional actors and also continental actors like African Union and our international partner, ILO. My colleague Lucy will speak on that, the labor migration aspect of our work in collaboration with ILO and its contributions. Of course, the other area that we've been promoting and working on is migration and the remittances, where IGAD is partnering with UNCDF, United Nations Capital Development Fund, and also promoting how remittances inflow to the IGAD region and also from IGAD from out of IGAD region to the region and also within the region. It is to promote policy harmonization along the remittance policies, which is a very important aspect of migration. Bob, I hope Lucy will take up on the free movement aspect in the regional integration and the regular pathway agenda that we'll be promoting under our free movement protocol. I hope our colleagues, I see Yemi is also there, they can speak on the displacement aspect of our work. Back to you, Bob.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ato Ibrahim Kasso, who is our team leader for migration at the Secretariat. And I know that many of you have also interacted with him in the space of the Regional Migration Fund activities. A few weeks ago, I think the last week you were in Juba and working closely with the local communities for the Regional Migration Fund activities that are going to be happening on the Uganda, South Sudan border. And thank you so much for giving us a highlight. And still again, if you want to get more information, much of the information is also provided within the document that highlights the IGAD Media Awards, giving a little bit of the background, but also the different policies are present. And so you are able to pick up the IGAD Regional Migration Policy Framework and the rest of the work that is being done. I think, since our time was split, so I'm able to call up our other colleagues who are here on the free movement agenda. Lucy, are you online?
Yes, good morning, Bob. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I would like to recognize His Excellency Mohamed Abdiware, the Deputy Executive Secretary of IGAD, all the colleagues from IGAD Secretariat, the experts on migration, as well as all our esteemed journalists and media personnel in the room. My name is Lucy Daxpacker. I'm responsible for the implementation of the IGAD protocol on free movement of persons in the IGAD region since 2017. The protocol has a specific foundation and background that it is part of the aspirations of IGAD heads of state and governments from 1986 to deepen regional integration for peace, prosperity, and development of our region. So Articles 7 and 13 of that IGAD agreement establishing IGAD 1986, renewed in 1996 to expand to all development aspects, is the foundation document for the IGAD protocol on free movement of persons. 1986 was a decade in which we had a lot of challenges in our region, and IGAD was founded on the premise of the challenge of drought, desertification, floods, and famine, as well as desert locust incursions in our region. And as you know, our region is a little bit vulnerable to all those natural hazards and man-made hazards. So the regime of free movement of persons, to bring it a little bit closer to humanity in our region, is supposed to protect our citizens, to provide for them safe spaces where they can travel, reside, establish themselves, and prosper. It is an instrument that makes a very safe, orderly, and regular alternative to irregular migration, but it's also an instrument that provides us with a normal life for a citizen of IGAD region without recourse to asylum. Asylum including seeking for asylum as a refugee, as a stateless person, and so forth. And secondly, we also have the challenges of man-made disasters, which have created mass forced displacement. My colleague Yemi will later on come and speak to you about forced displacement and also give you some statistics, which are quite staggering. I will focus just on the protocol. Why do we have free movement of persons protocol? It is a regional framework enabling mobility across our states. It supports regional integration, economic cooperation, and the mobility of workers for employment. It establishes the rights of entry, movement, residence, and establishment. And our heads of state directed the IGAD Secretariat and member states to develop this protocol at the Nairobi Declaration in 2017 March, and then our Council of Ministers of Foreign Affairs adopted it in their 72nd extraordinary session in 2021. By this reporting time today, we have signatures on the protocol. It has been signed by the government of South Sudan, the government of Sudan, the government of Ethiopia, and the government of Uganda. Between 2022, with Sudan having been the chair of IGAD in that year and being the first signatory, and recently signed by government of Uganda in March 2024. Why do we want free movement? I've already spoken to the vulnerability of the region, the need to support our citizens to overcome and be resilient to this drought, conflict, and climate-related displacement. But also, just to add for your interest, it's to promote cultural and social and educational exchange, promote tourism, because these social and cultural and educational exchanges, tourism, is one avenue in which we can promote social cohesion, in which we can promote peace and togetherness of people in our region. And then also, we promote peace and security by us knowing each other in that way. I will just go to the core objectives of the protocol. Facilitate progressive realization of free movement of persons, meaning a visa-free region, that is the abolition of visa fees, so that people can travel with their internationally recognized documents, either of an identity card or a passport. They can enter countries, stay in a country, and exit whenever they wish. Secondly, it enables us to have the right of residence in any country of our choice within IGAD region, and also the right of establishment within our member states. The right of residence is straightforward for you journalists. Now, the right of establishment is to do with investment, to do with trade, and to do with ability of citizens of our region to establish entrepreneurship shops, to establish businesses, to own property in any country of their choice. The government say they will facilitate such an arrangement and support economic activity, employment, so that all our youth, the 60% youthful population, can actually access employment. Now, I just want to say that this protocol follows certain principles regarding all of us, the 300 million citizens in our region. The principle of non-discrimination among our IGAD citizens. Wherever we reside, the host government is supposed to ensure we do not contravene any international and national laws with regard to discrimination, because discrimination is prohibited even by the OAU Charter of Human and People's Rights, and also by our various instruments in our own countries, and also in our regional instruments. And then also, of course, the other principle is called protection under the host state law, that even as we move around the region, that we abide by the rule of law and order in the host state, and that we are protected by the host state wherever we are. Responsive gender and child-sensitive protections are in Article 13 of the protocol, and then regional cooperation and policy harmonization. I would like to highlight one instrument which gives a comfort to member states to see that free movement of persons will not bring insecurity to their states, and that's Article 17. Article 17 refers to IGAD Convention on Extradition and IGAD Convention on Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters. These two conventions, if all member states of IGAD sign and ratify, will give comfort to ensuring that there is effective and efficient governance of all movement in our region, including the management of transnational crime. So there is a provision for that. I would like to say again that this instrument, the IGAD Protocol on Free Movement of Persons, is a very strategic instrument. Strategically, it will enhance economic integration in our region. It will improve availability of opportunities for employment of our citizens across the borders. It will enhance regional trade, and it will strengthen cooperation and collaboration, intelligence sharing, information sharing, enhancement of governance systems, technology, so that we can have peace, stability, and prosperity and development in our region. And the IGAD Secretariat is directed to oversee the implementation and the monitoring of this protocol, but the member states are the ones who will implement it. I would like to say thank you once again for joining the webinar and for participating in the IGAD Media Awards. I thank
Thank you so much, Madam Lucy Daxbacha, who is our leader on the action on the free movement of persons in the IGAD region. And thank you so much. And of course, I know that there are many of us who are seeking to get all of this information. And in a short while, we will be sharing a link in the chats with most of these documents. And these documents are online. Please be sure to check on our website, igad.int, and our social media handles, the IGAD Secretariat handles. You are able to find the links to the website, but also you are able to get most of these documents. Thank you again, Ambassador Lucy. And I know that in the last week you were in Juba. We were seeing the engagement you are having across the different ministries, from Foreign Affairs to Interior, to Labor, to Justice, on the ratification and domestication of the protocol, the free movement of persons in South Sudan. But I know that you are also moving across the region. And so thank you so much, colleagues, and I hope you're following. For this session, I have one other participant, and I know that Ibrahim had indicated that our colleague Yemis Rash is over here in the areas of cross-border mobility, and maybe I would also call you up later on when we are discussing on the area of displacement. But for now, Yemis Rash, would you like to add something on to what Ato Ibrahim said earlier on?
Yes, thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone. My name is Yemsrach Benalfo. I coordinate migration and displacement projects, and particularly allow me to come in briefly on the cross-border engagement. As I will come in later on displacement issue. When it comes to cross-border, IGAD has been investing on cross-border, particularly in cross-border areas where where the areas are part of the IGAD migration route. For those that are not familiar within IGAD migration routes, the region has three main one going to the Europe through North Africa via Sudan. Second one is to Gulf countries and Saudi Arabia through Djibouti and Somalia using Yemen. The third one is going to South Africa and using the southern route, and that goes through Kenya through Moyale, which is a border town between Ethiopia and Kenya, and either stay in Kenya or continue the journey to southern Africa and all the way to South Africa. So what IGAD has been doing is to, particularly in this area, and I will focus my intervention on Moyale, we look at how migration routes can be supported, particularly the government, the local authorities that usually are on the front line. And here we're looking at cross-border local authorities between Ethiopia and Kenya, but also local communities where they are hosting migrants. And then, of course, when we look at migrants, we cannot focus not only on one type. So there are different types of migrants. You have the daily laborers that go from one side, cross from Ethiopia to Kenya, and you have also children that go to school, and you have those that will continue again to South Africa. So what IGAD has been doing is identify what are the needs of this migrant and then host community that are hosting this migrant, and then try to support them and their journey, but why they're also there. So we have looked at actually through consultation with IGAD and communities, we have identified education and health particularly, as well as informal traders. These are women informal traders that cross the daily to sell, and most of the goods are like the daily goods that we would see on the streets. So we have been supporting this community in these 3 areas, and we have established different technical working groups to identify the needs and also develop SOPs so that migrants and mobile communities can be supported in the specific areas. We also have established an IGAD office, which was launched officially in 2023. And here, the office in Moyale, for anyone coming to Moyale, I welcome everyone to visit the office. It's an IGAD face with the community, with the authorities, but also for all development partners that are coming to Moyale to invest. And we have done so much, and the key message I would say is, and also key lesson that came out is listening to cross-border communities is important, especially when we have dynamic, diverse groups where there are different interests and there are also different dynamics, whether it's migration, trade, but also conflict. So sitting down with communities, local authorities is key for any investment that will come out. Allow me to stop here, and then I'll come later on displacement. Thank you very much, and over to you, Bob.
Thank you so much, Eunice, and thank you very much. Eunice is also our coordinator for the SIMPI Strengthening IGAD Migration Implementation program that runs a couple of initiatives, and some of those are those in the cross-border areas. And again, thank you. And so, looking at my watch, my session, I want to have to complete the first session. But before we do, we have already highlighted with Ibrahim Kasso on our migration governance portfolio. We have Lucy, who has given us a background on our free movement protocol session. And then we also have Eunice, who has given us more on the cross-border mobility. I want to ask that if you have questions and comments, I will be picking them up right now. If you want to get more knowledge, or you want to, you want to understand any of the, from any of the areas that have been discussed, be sure to put up the questions in the chat. I'm following up on them, and we will be picking them up right now. And I can confirm to you, Ahmed Jama, I have received your question in there, and I think I will take it will go straight to Austin after this next session that is coming up. In the implementation of our migration governance programs, one of our partners, especially in their subject matter area, is the International Labour Organization. And our colleagues who are here, we've been working together for a long time on the issues of labor migration, decent work, protection, and this whole conversation of especially the labor migrants that are leaving our region, especially going to the GCC, and so much work that is being done. Now, Ephraim is our Chief Technical Officer. Ephraim, I have your minutes here, and I request that you take it up. You'll unmute your audio, and where possible, you can even, your video is still on. Please go on, Ephraim.
Thank you very much, Bob. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency, the Deputy Secretary of IGAD Secretariat. And of course, I would also like to acknowledge the presence of all the IGAD colleagues and media fraternity. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to make this short presentation about labor migration governance. Yes, I hope, yeah, I'm just adjusting, yes. This session on labor migration, integration, regional integration, and design work. I hope my screen is visible to all of you. I have some slides to go through. Maybe can someone confirm if my slides are clear and visible on your side?
We're good. We're good.
Good. So basically, the purpose of my presentation here is basically to briefly refresh, participants' knowledge about the issue of distant work and labor migration. And as you can see from my screen, I have about 5 issues that I will be speaking on. The first one is really understanding the concepts and the terminologies. This is quite important in the area of journalism, reporting, and all that, because words matter. And everyone in this session and the media fraternity, I'm sure you know how words count. So first I will go through some conceptual definition and terminologies. Then I will dive a little bit into some of the key issues concerning labor migration and some work in the IGAD region. And by way of that presentation, I think you will also find some potential areas which could be of interest for your reporting as we move forward towards the IGAD media work, but also an area of interest for your work and reporting, particularly investigative journalism moving forward. Then again, I will quickly go into why media journalists matter when it comes to labor migration and distant work. And in the last, I will also go through getting the stories correct and share some important resources which will help you work on reporting on media. So first of all, going to the basics. When we talk about distant work, the distant work basically looks into 4 main issues. The first one is rights at work. When we say rights at work, here we are referring about fundamental rights and principles at work, including avoiding the situation of forced labor, the situation of, exploitation, ensuring that jobs are done in a decent manner in compliance with occupational safety and health standards and all that. So this basically involves all rights and conditions at work and how they are governed. The second aspect is the issue of decent employment and particularly wage. I think any work has to be rewarded fairly, and from that perspective, we will look into employment and the wage aspect. The third aspect is social protection, basically how workers in general, and in this specific case, migrant workers, have access to basic social protection floors. This includes, for example, access to health, access to educational services, access to, basic social protection coverage. The last one is on social dialogue and tripartitism. Here, basically, we are looking into how, if migrant workers have the right to organize into trade unions, be members of trade unions, and engage in a tripartite dialogue. And of course, when it comes to labor migration, I think the definition is clear. It refers to the mobility of persons from one geographical area to another geographical area to find gainful employment. But here, there is one important fact, whether we like it or not. When people move and migrate from one area to another area. Although their primary intention is not for employment, they will, in one way or another, engage in the labor market. They will be active in the labor market. So at one point in their journey to their country of destination, or even in their country of destination, as long as they have attachment to the labor market, they will be considered, labor migrant workers, although their primary intention is not really, gainful employment. So in your reporting, you also need to capture those issues. Then coming into the terminologies, I think all of you here are aware language is fundamentally how we share how we humans communicate meaning. The choice of our words really matter and play a key role in terms of what we convey to our audience. And here, I think the quote from Mandeng, which you'll see in the screen, basically describes and underscores why we as media professionals or even other professionals needs to be quite conscious of our terminologies, because sometimes we might mean something and it might mean or interpreted differently unless we use the appropriate words and terms in reporting. To support this process, the ILO has developed a media-friendly glossary on migration. This basically defines the different concepts, the different terminologies which we frequently use, so that media professionals and also other experts are quite aware and informed of this terminology. So as you prepare toward the IGAD Media Award, I would like to invite you to check this document. It's available online, and the link is also available in this presentation. So you might wish to look into that so that you will be able to capture the issues and the terminologies correctly. Then again, I think this slide is a more detail in terms of like what are the words that we need to use in terms of proper reporting on labor migration and which ones we need to avoid. For example, alien, a foreign worker, illegal migrant, labor export, labor import. These words have, inherent meaning of degrading a person. For example, if we take the issue of labor import export, this basically goes against the principle of the Philadelphia Declaration, which states that labor is not a commodity, and usually the import-export terminology is used in the context of commodity. So just sharing some example and picking on some of the wordings and terminology that we need to be cognizant of as we report on labor migration. The other common terminology used is also, unskilled worker, low-skilled worker. So this basically defines the human being entirely and squarely based on skills and qualification. Whereas if we have to see that person, we need to see it in its entirety. But if we have to describe the occupation, we need to narrowly define the occupation to say elementary occupation or a similar terminology. So I think the glossary will really provide you those, guidelines in terms of what were these terminologies that we need to use and which ones to avoid, so that we will not be disfavoring, migrant workers at the end of the day and convey maybe a different message to our readers. So terminology is again quite important and something that you need to be cognizant of. Now I think I will move to some of the issues and the potential areas for reporting on labor migration and decent work in the IGAD region. And here Basically, I will be narrowly focusing on some of the emerging trends, challenges, opportunities, just to shed light on some of the labor migration and some work priorities in the region, from which I believe you can get some ideas on where you would be looking into in your submission to this media award, but also your future area of reporting when it comes to the topic. First of all, I think the previous speakers, Lucy, Ibrahim, and also Yemsraj, have also touched about migration corridors. Here, of course, there are established corridors. The first one is the Horn of Africa GCC corridor, particularly when it comes to labor migration. This is an established corridor for a long time. There are a number of, quite a significant number of migrant workers going from the IGAD region to the GCC countries. And most of the migrant workers are employed in domestic work and construction sector. Of course, there are recent trends where the countries in the IGAD region have also, started engaging with countries in Europe and also Canada and Australia to enter into bilateral labor agreements on different sectors, including health professionals. The second area is intra-regional labor migration. The intra-regional labor migration basically refers to mobility and migration of workers within the region in the context of the IGAD region. And if we take IGAD as a block, it refers to mobility within the IGAD region. And here again, we see an increase in number of migrant workers and citizens moving across borders for mobility. In some cases, in Africa, there are also established corridors that have more than 1 million mobility or labor migration between the borders. For example, the Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire, the South Sudan, Uganda. We can name a number of, intra-regional labor migration schemes where citizens of the continent migrate across to other countries in search of employment opportunities. And the third aspect is also about people and migrant workers coming to our region. As much as Africa is always considered as a country of origin for labor migration, but increasingly in recent years, there are also workers coming from other parts of the world to the continent to engage in business or employment. And I think when we look and examine labor migration, I think we need to look at it in its entirety, looking into specific corridors, its established migration routes, and all that. And maybe one important issue that I would like to mention to the participants is when it comes to labor migration, there are always certain global movements which really creates a lot of need for workers. And here, when we look at the IGAD region and one of its major migration corridor to the GCC, as you are aware, Saudi Arabia will be hosting the next World Cup, and there is a lot of preparation happening. And they will be looking into migrant workers from the region and also other parts of the world. So from that perspective, as media journalists, how can you report on this issue? we are since we are in the time of the World Cup, I think it will be important for us also to look into to think, anticipate, and imagine the consequences, both positive and negative, of the forthcoming World Cup, and how can this be, reported well in our media houses. I think maybe this will be something of interest to you in the coming months and years. Second, I think it's about decent work deficits and protection risks. Migrant workers experience significant violation of rights, difficult living and working conditions, and in some cases, physical abuse and confiscation of identity documents. So from that perspective, I think when we talk about decent work, we need to look at rights at work, including working and living conditions of migrant workers. While the working conditions are quite explicit for any worker, I have specifically mentioned the living conditions because in the context of labor migration, sometimes the living and the working place can be the same. For example, if we can take domestic worker, where the majority of the migrant workers in the Horn of Africa are engaged in, their working and living place is the same. So as much as we are talking about hours of work, payment, and all that, we also need to really be cognizant to look into their conditions, living conditions. Do they have their own privacy to the list? Do they have, a proper sleeping place? All those things we need to look into. The other issue is the issue of wage. I think low wage, wage theft, and the principles of equal pay for a work of equal value have been compromised in many cases, particularly for migrant workers. So when it comes to the discussion around wage, we need to look into some of the fundamental principles, including equal pay for a work of equal value. In this particular case, we need to examine how the national laws, legislations, and practices treat migrant workers and nationals, because in some cases, it's quite obvious that migrant workers are paid much less than the national workers while performing the same duty. So from that perspective, we need to look into that. The issue of wage theft, non-payment of wage, delayed payment of wage. These are some of the common challenges and decent work deficit that migrant workers, experience. So from that perspective, you need to look into the issue of wage a little bit, in depth to report on those issues. Then I think the issue of social dialogue here, the absence of collective bargaining, freedom of association, basically the right to join trade unions and migrant workers association. In many cases, it's quite limited, particularly in the Middle East. From that perspective, we need to look into the negative consequences of this. And I think the last one is social protection. This basically refers to migrant workers' access to social protection systems and floors, including access to health services, education, portability of benefits, and all that. As much as these are full of challenges, there will also be, some improvements. From that perspective, I think with the idea of balanced reporting, when you cover these issues, you also need to look into some emerging trends, good practices on these different issues. Then the third issue is bilateral labor agreements and memorandum of understanding. I think as a member of the media, I'm sure you might have seen a lot of news, some news, or being part of a report about bilateral labor agreements. Of course, bilateral labor agreements provide a basis for enhancing coordination and collaboration between countries of origin and countries of destination. But at the same time, the bilateral labor agreements and MOUs are found to weaken protection embodied in the international standards and national laws, leading to differential treatment according to migrant workers' nationality. So from that perspective, when we talk about bilateral labor agreements, we really need to ask and examine the process. How are the bilateral labor agreements drafted? How are they negotiated? Are these documents really publicly available? Or are migrant workers aware of this bilateral labor agreements or MOUs? How are they implemented? Are they more regularly monitored and evaluated? As a media, we need to dive down into the issue of the substantive issues beyond the headlines when it comes to bilateral labor agreements and MOUs. This is because as much as they have their own added value, they also carry a lot of challenges, particularly if they are not well negotiated and well implemented and monitored. They weaken protection systems and assurances embedded in international standards and even in sometimes national law. So from that perspective, we are aware many countries are signing in the process of signing bilateral labor agreements, but let's go a little bit in depth to look into what's happening there. And even more so at regional level and in the context of IGAD, we also need to see how the IGAD member states can also, negotiate from a common position. Can the member states agree amongst themselves and define a minimum denomination on the contents and key aspects of bilateral labor agreements so that they will have a better bargaining position when they deal with the countries of destination? Usually what we see in the process of negotiating bilateral labor agreements is the downward pressure on wage and working conditions. The countries of destination being, on the driving seat, they usually push countries of origin and downplay and put pressure on wage and working conditions, which is not beneficial to everyone. So from that perspective, how and what can be done by IGAD member states could be one area of interest for reporting on labor migration. The other one is multilateral migration and mobility agreements. I think my colleague Lucy has spoken about the IGAD protocol on free movement of persons, and we are very happy that it's signed by 5 member states, but still we have a long way to go towards ratification and implementation. And here, as a media fraternity and as a media house, we need to really ask ourselves, why do we have low ratification and maybe low or partial implementation of multilateral agreements? This applies to the AU Protocol on Free Movement of Persons, the IGAD Protocol on Free Movement of Persons. And from that perspective, we need to really see and answer the question why, and also look into the other part of the world. It could be within the continent or outside, to see best practices, lessons learned, and the development gains of free movement regions across the world, so that our leaders and decision makers also see the potential contribution and impact of free movement regions in the region. So this could also be something of interest for you to explore. Then the other point is the recruitment process. I'm sure we have observed, and I'm sure you might also notice this in your countries over the last 2 decades. Private employment, the number of private employment agents has significantly increased in all the IGAD member states. They are emerged as the main actors on labor migration, facilitating mobility from the countries of origin to the countries of destination. Although there are those who are operating within the laws, regulations, and promote fair recruitment practices, there are also deceptive, abusive, and discriminatory recruitment agencies. From that perspective, and with the spirit of advancing fair recruitment, we need to really examine the practices in the private employment agencies, and even more broadly in the general recruitment industry, to look into the process of recruitment before departure, during migration, but also in countries of destination. Because unfair recruitment practice in the country of origin at the end of the day leads to conditions of forced labor, trafficking, and debt bondage when they reach to the countries of destination, and leading to a lot of abuse and that we all hear in the different media outlets. So from that perspective, as journalists, we need to really investigate and look into the recruitment industry and also private employment agencies, and also promote how they can play a constructive role in terms of advancing labor migration. Then coming to the migration and development nexus, I think again here the previous speakers have touched on the migration development nexus, particularly the importance of the important role of remittances. And I think this is the most direct, the most straightforward, and the non-ambiguous development dividends of migration and labor migration. However, when we talk about, migration and development, it's also important to look into the issue of brain drain and brain gain. This is a topic of contest, even in the academic circle, but as media professionals and bringing it down to our specific realities in the region, we need to see how the countries are, gaining brain or losing brains in the process of migration or labor migration. I think there are certain good evidences whereby migrants return back home with new knowledge, skill, business networks, and they were able to transfer that knowledge and skill to the local market and engage in very good businesses. There are so many good stories of the diaspora, but at the same time, we have also situations whereby a medical professional move from the region and end up being a cab driver in Europe or America. So from that perspective, we also need to look into both the issue of brain drain and the issue of brain gain, and how this plays out. The other issue is also social and professional networks. I think when we talk about migration and development, we also need to look into the social outcomes of the migration experience, and at the same time, the professional networks and its dividends on lifelong learning of migrant workers. So again, here, when we report about migration and development, we need to look into all these issues to have a fair reporting. The other issue is access to justice and grievance mechanisms. We hear a lot of reporting, both in the media and also, different studies and researches about significant abuses, abysmal working conditions, conditions of forced labor, and all the challenges. But when it comes to access to justice and grievance mechanisms, we need to really unpack the issue and go beyond the established factors to see what are the common challenges when it comes to access to justice. Are migrants aware of their rights and the compliant procedures in the countries of destination? Are there any fear of retaliation, job loss, and all those issues? And even when it comes to legal assistance, as we all know, in many countries, legal services are really exuberant. From that perspective, if they don't have, did they have access to that legal assistance? And, if not, what can be done? Then coming to the grievance mechanism, again, I think migrant workers need to have access to labor inspection, compliant mechanisms, labor courts and tribunals, and we need to really examine the different cases, headlines we hear, and try to go one step further to ensure that migrant workers have got justice and their grievances are addressed. Then I think coming to the issue of gender equality, when it comes to labor migration and the issue of employment, men and women migrant workers should have access, equal access to employment opportunities, fair treatment, equal pay for equal value, and safe working conditions. But when it comes to our region and also countries of destination, do we see occupational segregation, concentration of certain genders in certain types of jobs? The most obvious case is, for example, the concentration of women migrant workers in low-paid sectors like domestic work. And from that perspective, what can be done to really address the challenge and also, avoid discriminatory recruitment practices? So again, another area of interest for your reporting. Then coming to the last part of my presentation, I think why media and journalists matter. You matter a lot because even in the media has been called as a fourth estate, an essential addition to the executive, legislation, and judiciary. And you play significant role by informing the public about what's happening, informing public discourse and debate, promoting rights of migrants, giving voice for the voiceless. And here, I think I put voiceless under quotation just to be cognizant of the terminology that we need to use in our reporting, which I mentioned in the previous slides. Then again, as a media and a journalist, we have also a lot of role to play in terms of combating misses and also misinformation and disinformation, and at the same time promoting social cohesion, inclusive and accountable governance. So from that perspective, you play a great role. And coming to getting the story correct, I think as ILO, we did one study looking into media reporting in the Arab states, and I'm just sharing a few outputs from that study. When we look at the reporting, and here again, it's a specific case to the Arab states, but we see quite a negative narrative. If you can look at my screen, the red shades in the circle are the negative, while the blue ones are the positive, and the white ones are neutral. So in all the three cases, the tone of the reporting in the newspaper, the tone of the reporting in the op-eds, the tone of the engagement in the social media, in many cases, in most cases, it's tilted towards negative narratives about labor migration and migrant workers. So from that perspective, I think in the spirit of this IGAD Media Award, and also the remarks put forward by the Deputy Executive Secretary, and also Austin, I think when we think about our stories, we really need to make them human-centered, rights-based, evidence-based, balanced, development-focused, and at the same time, ensuring dignity of the people that we are reporting on. Then to facilitate this, of course, there are requirements. One is the source and the resources, factors, figures, family members, survivors, and all that. Then this is like my last part, Bob. I know I take a bit of extra time. I'm finishing up. In terms of reporting, to guide your work in preparation for the award, and also your future work on the topic, I would like to share few resources which could be of interest to you. The first one is the ILO toolkit on reporting on forced labor and fair recruitment. This is an interactive toolkit which really helps journalists to understand the subject, but also take them through the different cycles of reporting, starting with the understanding of the story, finding the story, getting the story, telling the story, and follow up. I'm sure some of you in this panel might have already looked into this, but for those who haven't, I really strongly advise you look into this tool as you prepare your reports. The second one is, again, a toolkit that was customized to the specific context of the Eastern Horn of Africa region. This is a guideline which is available in the ILO portal. And again, I would like to advise you to check into that. I will also put the links on the chat box in the coming minutes. Then lastly, I think there are also some reporting guidelines on migration, which are developed by your fellow journalists network and associations. One is the guideline that's developed by the Ethical Journalism Network. It really gives good guidance on reporting on migration and labor migration, migration in general, and labor migration in particular. From that perspective, I really advise you to look into these resources as you prepare your submissions to the competition and your future work on the topic. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm sorry that I took longer time, but and I remain available for question and answer. Over to you, Bob. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ephraim, and thank you. Thank you. Really, it's been very comprehensive on the aspect of labor migration. And you know, you've really pivoted it towards how to report, where to report, and how to bring the context in our storytelling. And I think this is really very, very comprehensive. Rightly so, you know the glossary of definitions that I think we developed together some of the areas, you can always see them in our normal reporting daily. Maids, and domestic workers, aliens, and we are seeing these cases coming in, even from Africa right now. Aliens, we hear countries expelling aliens, and these are very good areas that you want us to take notice of, even as we do our reporting. And so I think it's been very comprehensive. I can see you're sharing in the links in the chat. We have so many questions that have been coming in. I will peg back a little bit on the time such that we are able to have our second session, which is specifically going to be focusing on the area of forced displacement. And so allow me pick up a couple of questions and comments. And I take note that we have a number of comments, but there are also a couple of questions that have come in. And allow me pick some of them from here. And this is Mercy Florence. And I hope my area discussants from Austin to Lucy, I can see Ibrahim is present. Ephraim stayed by, and also for Yemi Slash. Ahmed Jama is asking, his background is he's much more of a researcher. He says he focuses on youth and migration, initiatives in Somalia, areas of climate change, geopolitics alignment in the Horn of Africa. And, he's doing some policy work, writing papers, publishing content, and he's asking, does such a person qualify to participate in the IGAD Media Awards? And that is for you, Austin. For someone who is into policy, research, reporting, is that the kind of person? Can that person participate in the Media Awards? You can go for it before I pick up on Castle.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Ahmed Jama, for your question. Yes, you are eligible for an entry, but then it's a very specific category. Your entries will qualify for the community media category. If your content is specifically tailored for a certain group of people or community, you can qualify for this category. The other category that you can qualify for is the digital creators category, which is open as well, and focuses on there's the influencer category, and there's also a category for basically digital creators which is open to anyone who uses their online platforms to reach out to the greater the wider IGAD region. That's it from me, Bob.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to pick up, maybe before I let you mute your microphone, there is a quick one. And I think you can also, follow up with this one. Someone is asking, like, what is the minimum and maximum period, the duration that is required if it is in terms of reporting? And also asking to find out, can I tell my story in Somali? If I have my story in Somali, do I add subtitles? But what if I have my story in a different language? So I think that is something that I wanted you also to respond to a little bit quicker.
Up to now, no one is talking.
Repeat the question.
What's present in there, and so on.
Hello, Bob. Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, the question was, someone is asking about, is it the minimum and maximum duration required? Maybe the story, I've done a story perhaps, in the last 5 years, or is it the last 3 years? And then the second part of the question is in its language. Should the story be in English, or if I have the story in Somali, in Afar, over to you.
Sir? Okay. So for the language, we only accept stories written in English, French, and Arabic. This will qualify in any of the 10 categories. Of course, if you write your story in any other language outside English, French, and Arabic, your story will only make an entry to the indigenous language category. Your story will only make an entry to the indigenous language category, and not any other category, any of the other 9 categories. And this includes Swahili. I know you might have a story done in Swahili, and you hope that you're probably expecting that this story will make it to maybe another category outside the indigenous language. Unfortunately, in the IGAD region, the heads of state have only approved 3 languages, which is English, French, and Arabic. And also, when you're submitting for the indigenous language, please attach a transcription of your story. Whether it's a video story, please attach a script done in English, French, or Arabic, whichever language that you prefer to make your transcription submission in. The other question was on...
It was on the period of reporting.
Yes. So we are only taking stories that were aired between January 2022 and July 30th, when we will be closing the entries. January 2022 to July 30th. So if you have any story done in between this period, it's eligible for consideration this year.
Thank you so much, Austin. January 2022 to July 31st, 2026. I have here a question, and I think this one goes to...
Bob, if you don't mind, there are other questions that I captured. If I can just go through them and then perhaps hand it over to the other colleagues.
Please.
Yes, so there was a question from Angela from Citizen TV. This was Angela and I think Nathan as well. They were requesting for the resources. Yes, these resources will be available, and by end of day today, we'll add another resource button on the Media Awards website, whereby you can just go and then have everything that was presented in this webinar, and also any other policy document or resource that we think you'll need moving forward will also be added onto the website. The website will be the main IGAD Media Awards website, which is www.mediaawards.igad.int. There was also a question from Irene Jackson. I think this splits between me and Caso. Irene asked that in what ways can IGAD and national governments leverage partnerships to address the systematic challenges confronting women and children migrants. And then she continued by saying that furthermore, what key interventions are necessary to secure dignified livelihoods for women throughout the migration process. So the second part, I'll leave it for my other colleagues, but then I would say that I think broadly there's us as IGAD, there's member states, and also there's you, the media, and then there's on the other end there's the general public. I am big on advocating for localized campaigns to shift public narratives. And this is particularly important to ensure that we do not just design campaigns because they sound nice to the ears of the public, but we design campaigns that actually speak to everyday people. So, and our everyday problems. So it's very, very important for the media working hand in hand with our national governments or local governments to develop localized campaigns to sensitize the public. And of course, as the Deputy Executive Secretary reaffirmed in his statement, that we need to also shift from we need to also shift from crisis to human-centric safety messages. Another thing that can be done is to also drive grassroots accountability. And I think most of the time as communications professionals and also as the media, we forget that our work is not just to report. Our work is also to make sure that change has taken place. So we don't just do stories and then leave them, have them go on air and then go back and say, oh, I did a great story. The other part of our work is also to make sure that change has occurred. And if change has not occurred, then we've not fully completed our mission. So to also make sure that we drive grassroots accountability, I highly advise on stakeholder mapping. If you're in the media, have your connections at IGAD, have your connections at national level in your country, have your connections at local level, know the village elders, get stories with actual names. For example, if you're writing a story about a marginalized group, for example, women in an IDP camp who are perhaps not getting proper sanitary conditions in the IDP camps. And it's just a story about how women are not getting proper sanitary conditions. And there's no perhaps specific people who you capture their stories and have their stories as have their stories on the front line in this case, and also get perspectives from different people, get perspectives from IGAD, get perspectives from your national government. This will actually help drive grassroots accountability, because most of the time governments, intergovernmental organizations, as governments and intergovernmental organizations, we are focused on developing necessary tools for people, necessary tools like policy documents for people to know where we want to go, but then we hardly have enough time to follow everything down to the grassroots most of the time. So it's you, the media, to constantly remind us and keep us on check to ensure that the actual changes that we are advocating for are actually felt on the ground. The other question was, I didn't capture the name. Oh, it was by Mohammed Osman on how can IGAD engage with the media apart from relying on statements and press releases to help make IGAD member states adopt, implement labor and work protocols. Yes, as IGAD, there are things we've already done, like, for example, coming up with these policy documents, calling our member states and identifying the gaps, as my sister Lucy brought to your attention, and also as Ephraim and Castle, pretty much all colleagues have brought to your attention, including the office we've opened in Moyale. We've done all these things, but then sometimes it's so unfortunate that this information is not common knowledge. Even, for example, our office in Moyale might not be well known by Moyale residents from both Ethiopia and Kenya. So I think this is where perhaps instead of looking at IGAD failing or our governments failing from by just sending press release and statements, I think this is where we need your help as the media fraternity to help us announce and talk about these initiatives. that most of the times, and I think in a conversation I had the other day with a colleague, they actually told me that most of the times, even when they open scholarship positions, you find very few people applying for these positions. So, and it's not that everyone is already learned in the region. There are still gaps. There are still people who need these opportunities. But it's about how the information gets from whoever has the resources to whoever needs the resources. And I think this is where you, as the media fraternity, stands. And much of this will still be discussed as time goes by, and especially during the 2 days knowledge share fair, whereby you'll tell us what are some of the gaps that are existing, what are we doing wrong that we should do right, and also we'll also bring the general public to be part of these discussions, and the other smaller stakeholder groups like the other marginalized stakeholder groups like women, youth, and also the governments will also be there to help us have a very comprehensive discussion around this subject matter. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I think that's pretty much it from my end. Over to you, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Austin. I'm compiling a couple of others which are award-related questions, and we will pick them up at the end. But for now, I'll just pick out one question for each of our discussants, and then I will get to the session that is focusing on forced displacement. And to you, Ibrahim, there was this question that Austin addressed the first half, and the second half, it was talking about the issue of women and children on the move in the region, and what are some of the policies, to address systematic challenges confronting women and child migrants, the key interventions that are necessary to secure dignified livelihoods for women throughout the migration process. So I think that you can handle. And of course, I will pick up after you. I'll pick up Ephraim. What are some of the key reforms that are still needed to make labor recruitment safer, fairer, and more accessible for African migrant workers? So, Ephraim, you can prepare for that. And I think the third one, actually, it came in before Ephraim finished. It was asking about the common mistakes that journalists make when covering labor migration stories, and I think he thoroughly answered that in the question. But let me begin with you, Ibrahim.
Thank you, Bob. I think in the interest of time, as a moderator, you be very good, vigilant on all of us. Just to go directly to your statement on the women on migration, the child in the move. This is part of the broader work of labor migration program that we are working with ILO on how we make safe, regular pathway for labor mobility. And there has been studies been done on regarding women migrant workers and the challenge they are facing in the country of destination and also in the countries of transit, where based on that study finding, a member state really need to address the specific needs of migrant women in the countries of destination, and also before they move from their countries of origin, in the form of having pre-departure training and proper orientation and the kind of risks that they will be facing in the course of the work. That sensitization is been going on with member states as part of the pre-departure training, so that women migrant workers are mindful while they are going for safe labor mobility in the countries of destination. And of course, that is part of the sensitization that the labor agencies that are recruiting young women have to really abide by and provide necessary toolkits on the training package, which they have to be sensitive on. Regarding the child, there is IGAD has already facilitated a policy on the child on the move with member state. That policy has been the current context has been studied done in all IGAD member states. There is national level consultations. There is regional policy forum on child on the move and how member states are really addressing the immediate needs of child on the move, the policy needs, the basic needs, and also lasting solutions to children on the move. So that agenda is also being taken at policy level, but the implementation is really a long way to be done. And the cases of really child ending up in child labor and the child abuse are significant areas where journalists really can bring cases and report, which will feed into the policy implementations going forward. That's what I can say, Bob, in the interest of time. Back to you. You are muted. You are muted.
Your mic is on mute, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I just wanted to add that we have a host of documents that we will be sharing in a link. And most of our governance documents, policies that are at work, we will be sharing them. We may not go deep right now, but we'll be sharing them. Now, you would allow me, colleagues, that I will have this session again in the next plenary, because I know that there are questions that touch on both ends of today's discussion. I want to bring the second the second session for this IGAD Media Awards, the forced displacement aspect. Incredible region. Interestingly, over 19 million people are displaced in the IGAD region. Over 19 million people. The IGAD region is host to over 19 million displaced persons, including about 5 million refugees and asylum seekers. So to elucidate more on this subject is our team leader for forced displacement, and she's here with us. Teresa Ding, are you on? Miss Teresa? Okay. I will work with the admin to establish to establish the background. But as Teresa comes on board to share with us on the aspect of displacement, Austin, let me just jump to you briefly as we do the connection in the background. Sarah Mawerere from the Uganda Broadcasting Council in Uganda is asking, is it okay to make entries on all topics if I have the opportunity to? And if I have two or more stories, radio stories, and they could be different other media and others in print, is it okay to submit like 3 radio stories on different topics? So Austin, you can be picking up with that as we bring Teresa online.
Yes, Sarah, thank you for your question. Thank you, Bob. We only allow one story per category. One story per category because of the internal shortlisting systems. We do not want to have a situation whereby we have 3 stories by, for example, Bob Nwajira competing against each other. So one story per category. Sorry, my colleague Lucas here has also something to add on that, please.
Yes, one story per category, like my colleague said, but also per entry. So you cannot enter more than 2 stories per entry. Even
Voila.
in all.
Yeah. So one story for US Media Awards.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that is also close to this other question that we have now. Teresa, if you're back on your PC, just put up the hand, and I will be able to pick you up. Maybe the second one that is in line with this. I'm just wondering the ease with which we can make contact with key resources, especially the technical people within IGAD as sources and for resources of any particular story as the deadline is ticking. So I think this is also to you, Austin.
Bob, I think sorry for pushing this back to you, but I think this is more on your side because you are in charge of coordinating health and social
Yes,
division experts. So I think this is more
sure.
on
Yes.
that too.
Yes, yes. Well, I just wanted to add maybe that for experts, for those who are looking for experts, we will share. I think you can write to Austin, and then Austin we can always seek out to get the experts. I will share our emails, Austin Opata, and then maybe I will add on Bob Nwajira. The email will share it for anyone who wants to get experts, especially in the area of migration and forced displacement, especially in this. Yeah, thank you. I think Austin has shared it on the group, bob.nwajira@igad.int. I was buying time just to make sure that Teresa, you are online. Say hello to us and perhaps you are able to proceed, Teresa.
Hello?
Yes, we are able to hear you, Teresa.
Oh, I think there's a problem with my audio. I hope you can hear me well now.
Yes, we do hear you, and we hope that you are hearing us.
Okay, perfect. I can hear you very loud and clear. If you're ready, I think my presentation can be projected. Thank you, Lucas. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to each one of you, and thank you for taking the time to join this webinar. As my colleague Bob already highlighted, my name is Teresa Bing. I'm the team leader for Refugee and Displacement Management at the IGAD Secretariat. And today we have been tasked, my colleagues and I have been tasked to take you through a short information sharing session on forced displacement in the IGAD region, which includes our responses as IGAD in terms of displacement. We've structured this session into 3 parts just to make it easier for you to understand. I believe all of you are practitioners either in migration and displacement, so this would be kind of like a refresher, and for those that are new into the area, maybe an introductory session for you to understand forced displacement and its responses in the region. I will begin by tackling issues around forced displacement in our region, and then my colleague Charles Ogola, who is the head of statistics, will present on the trends and statistics over the last few years. And the last part was dedicated to mobility in the context of climate change or climate-induced displacement, which was supposed to be handled by our head of unit, Dr. Victoria Anib. But unfortunately, because we're running a bit behind, she had to go and attend to something else. She's also the head of mission for IGAD to the Republic of South Sudan. So some of the responsibilities that come with that have caught up with her. So my colleague Charles Ogola will also take Dr. Victoria's session. So next, I'm ready to proceed on the first slide. Just an overview of the presentation outline. As I mentioned, we look at an overview of forced displacement in the IGAD region, which includes key definitions and terminologies. After that, we'll go into why forced displacement issues matter for us as a region and for you also as journalists, and what your role is in reporting on forced displacement. Thirdly, we'll also tackle issues around forced displacement statistics and trends, as I highlighted. And then fourth, we'll talk about climate-induced displacement in the IGAD region, what it looks like, and what the responses for IGAD are. Lastly, the presentation will also look at IGAD's responses to forced displacement and looking at 2 key areas, which are the regional policies that advance responses to forced displacement, as well as the regional mechanisms that we have in place towards this endeavor. Next. So under the overview, allow me to start with the basics, which is the definitions. Forced displacement for us at IGAD refers to situations where people are compelled to leave their homes, not by choice, but because of circumstances that are beyond the control. And this is usually conflict, violence, insecurity, as I mentioned, climate change, which includes drought and floods, but also other climate-related shocks, such as landslides and that. The IGAD region is also one of the most affected regions in the world when it comes to forced displacement. Millions of people are currently living away from their homes, either within their own countries or across borders. So all of them fall under this category of forced displacement. And what I perhaps forgot to mention, because in the last slide I had put a small banner of facts. Austin, if I can request you to go back, Lucas, sorry, if I request you to go back a bit, I had put a small banner on just some temporary facts, and you can see that in globally in 2024 we had about 123 million displaced persons. And this accounts for 1 in 67 people globally. So out of 67 people in the world, 1 person is displaced. So it goes to speak to the extent of displacement globally, but for our region specifically, can go back to the other slide, thank you. For our region specifically, our numbers currently are around 23 million, and these include forcibly displaced persons, so that's refugees, IDPs, returnees, as well as asylum seekers. So for you to understand displacement generally, I feel it was important for me to highlight who falls under the category of forced displacement for our responses, and also for your reporting as journalists. The main populations that we are referring to under forced displacement are: 1, asylum seekers, and these are people who are seeking international protection, but whose claims have not yet been determined. This is often confused with refugees, but refugees are people who have crossed international borders due to conflict, persecution, or insecurity. So they are almost the same category in terms of international protection, but asylum seekers have not yet received their determination on being refugees, and refugees have been confirmed to be refugees in the countries that they are seeking asylum. Next. Another category is internally displaced persons. These are people who are forced to flee their places of habitual residence, but remain within the borders of their country. So this is also to distinguish the difference between a refugee and an IDP. So an IDP is still within the boundaries, international boundaries of their country, but a refugee has crossed the international borders onto another country. And then lastly, not lastly, fourth, I think, is returnees. So returnees refer to people that have gone back to their places of origin. Often, returnees include either refugees or IDP. So you can be a refugee returnee, or you can be an IDP returnee. The fact there is that you have returned to your area of origin after finding durable solutions, or having chosen to go back to your area of origin. Lastly, another category that we find under forced displacement is stateless persons, or persons that are at risk of statelessness. These are individuals who are not recognized as nationals of any country, mostly by the operation of their laws, and they fall within the cracks of gaps in laws. And so therefore they face serious protection and legal challenges in access to basic services, as well as documentation. And for us as a region, statelessness is a problem in specifically 3 countries. So South Sudan, Sudan, and Ethiopia. These are the countries that now, as well as Uganda, countries that have populations that are either at risk of statelessness or have populations that are stateless. I'll go straight into why this matters for us as a region. Forced displacement in our region is no longer a short-term issue. For most of you, you might know that some of the displacement in the region, if you look at Somalia, if you look at South Sudan, If you look at some of Ethiopia, it has been protracted and has lasted over 10 years. So when somebody has been displaced for more than 10 years, usually they are categorized under the term of protracted displacement. So for us as a region, it's no longer a short-term issue. For many people, it has become a long-term reality. People have been born in refugee camps. They have been living in refugee camps, as well as having families in refugee camps. So this protracted nature of displacement needs us to look at different approaches that are more than humanitarian or immediate. I think somebody's scribbling on the screen. Sorry. It needs us to look at long-term and more developmental approaches in addressing displacement. The impact, many cases of displacement have now spent years, some decades away from their homes, and this shifts the challenges from emergency responses to long-term planning as well as development. At the same time, displacement also presents opportunities in as much as the impact in many ways for displacement is felt by these displaced persons. Host communities are often also facing increased pressure on already limited services such as healthcare, education, water, and housing. And if not well managed, this can create a lot of tension and misunderstanding between refugees and host communities. So in as much as displacement, please go back, I'm just finalizing that slide, thank you. And as much as we look at the negative aspects, which is what we were trying to mitigate by having this session, or not just having stories that reflect the negative impact of refugees. We wanted the stories also to reflect displacement opportunities that come with it. With the right support, displaced persons and host communities can build resilience together. They can strengthen local economies. They can create employment, as well as contribute to infrastructure development in the countries of asylum. So this is why forced displacement must be seen not only as a humanitarian issue, but also as a development and governance priority. Next. This next slide is not mine. I will hand over to my colleague, Charles Ogola, to present on the data and trends, as well as on climate-induced displacement. Then I will come back and finalize how our responses look like as IGAD. Ogola?
Thank you very much, Teresa. I don't know if you can hear me clearly. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Charles.
Great, then I can continue. So as mentioned, my name is Charles Ogola. I work as the... Bob, you have removed the presentation. Okay, thank you. Okay, my name is Charles Ogola, and I'm head of statistics unit, but also coordinating the issues to do with migration and displacement statistics within the IGAD region. So with this, just to follow up on what my predecessor Teresa just mentioned, all these things that we are discussing, these are not just statistics, but these are just behind these numbers is human face. And therefore, with these statistics, it's also help us in terms of looking at the different interventions that can be geared towards the different population. As mentioned in terms of the definitions of the different for forced displacement groups, we also have some statistical definitions that help us in terms of calculating calculating the indicators that are geared towards these different types or kinds of the population, target population. Just to give some example in terms of the trends, I hereby went forward in terms of looking at some of the subset of the forced displacement group. And for example, when you look at the refugees trend, the 10-year trend, for example, from 2015 to around 2024, you will find that it has always been on an increase, and even from up to, given the baseline of 2015, you find that at 2024, it was already 4.69 million refugees. And these are data that are gotten from the member states and aggregated at the regional level. And also, when you look at the trend, you'll find that even in terms of the gap, the gender gap, you'll find that female are still a bit higher than male, and that also means that even when we are looking at the interventions also look into the issues of even the sex. Then also, when you look at the asylum seekers of 2024, we had around 391,000, which had already quadrupled from the baseline year that we were speaking about, the 10-year time series. And in terms of that, you can already see that in as much as we have near split, female were more than the male. And this also in terms of looking at the issues to do with the asylum seekers, you will see that it's still also the trend was going up. And therefore, there is always importance need to look at why are these trends going up and what are some of the mitigations that can be utilized. And even digging further into issues to do with the age disaggregation so that it can also really help in terms of even looking at the holistic profile of the different population. And that can also help a lot even in terms of looking at even the children on the move and also looking at those those who are in working age group and even those who are also even in the school going categories, and therefore those also means that really help in terms of addressing that. Next slide. Yes, now when you look at in terms of the issues, for example, for the population, the refugee population, you will find that the dark one is the children age group, and then there's 18 to 59, which is majorly working age population, and then 60 plus who are the dependents. And you can see that around 53% were, even at 2024, were children. And that means that these children are also maybe part of the children of the move, and therefore there are interventions that specifically needs to be addressed to the children on this refugee subgroup. And then also 18 to 59 also look at issues to even the skilling, the TVET, and the rest. Therefore, there is a story that can be told when you have these numbers, both in terms of even bringing the issues of the positive aspects that already my colleague Teresa mentioned. And when you look at, for example, asylum seeker age distribution, you could see that the share in 2015 for children were for 41%, but in 2024 it had reached to 52%. That means that also when you are looking at some of the targeted interventions, you can be able to really articulate and even dig further, as we are just giving some of the global at a global level, not even in going into those nitty-gritty. Then in terms of the returnees, you'll find that when you look at the trend, most of the returnees, this is mostly broadly stable, but in 2021, it picked up in terms of some of them who are coming back. This might have been even the effects of the COVID and something like that when people are now going back. But no, that means that when we have these kinds of figures, it also helps us a lot in terms of drilling further and even looking into the issues of the qualitative aspect, that's just to back up this quantitative part. I just also wanted to mention that, for example, it's also important that when we look at these statistics, it also helps a lot in terms of the policies. For example, in Kenya, there was a survey that was done by the Bureau of Statistics in terms of the statelessness, and that also really helped when the population who are statelessness were gotten. It also helped in terms of Kenya giving the citizenship to this stateless population. And that means that the impact of having good data, quality, and the one that it's really holistic can really help in terms of ensuring that we have the targeted intervention. Next. Having said that, next. In terms of now going to the mobility in the context of climate change in the IGAD region, IGAD has been working very hard in terms of looking into the climate-induced mobility. And this is in terms of even answering some of the global and the continental and the regional frameworks. For example, the Global Compact on Migration, the Sendai Framework to Disaster Risk Reduction, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and even the African Union Kampala Conventions on the IDPs. And at the regional level, at IGAD, we also have the Free Movement Protocol and Transhumance Protocol, and also the Migration Policy Framework. And when you look at the population that has been displaced in relation to the global, the region is around a sixth of the total population, displaced population globally. And for example, when we talk about the issues to do with climate change, you will realize that there were some times that there is always a drought, there's issues to do with floods, issues to do with environmental degradation, which also leads to issues to do with human mobility. And by the end of 2023, for example, we had 10.3 million people were internally displaced across the east and horn of Africa. And here, around 1.9 were majorly displaced by climate-induced related disasters. And therefore, IGAD as a regional leader, in terms of the issues to do with the coordination and in terms of the issues to do with the harmonization and issues to do with the integration, IGAD worked towards and through the policy of free movement protocol that my colleague Lucy spoke about, Article 16 and transhumance protocol. They look at how can we be able to integrate climate mobility into the policy. And also we have some regional climate strategies that also try to address the pastoral mobility and cross-border displacement. With this importance of issues to do with climate change and mobility nexus, IGAD responses has been, for example, promoting the policy coherence and the all of government and all of society approach towards the climate adaptation and disaster displacement. In addition to that, also looking into how climate mobility is being integrated into the national policies across the migration, displacement, climate, and humanitarian sectors. And this, for example, IGAD has been working through even also through its specialized institution, for example, the IGAD Climate Prediction Application Center, and with the Secretariat in terms of even modeling so that it can also help in terms of anticipatory management of these kind of things, and also looking into how we look at the impact of climate change on mobility. Furthermore, in terms of ensuring that these are also embedded within the member states and other existing governance structure, IGAD has been working to strengthen the issues to do with the national coordination mechanism so that they can be able to enhance the cross-sector coordination, information sharing, and implementation of the regional commitment across the member states. And as we speak, already in some of the member states, already there has been establishment of a working committee that deals with climate-induced human mobility within the national coordination mechanism. For example, in Kenya, recently, yesterday, they endorsed to have the technical working group that will be embedded within the national coordination mechanism. And that even shows the importance of issues to do with climate change in relation to mobility. Thank you, and back to you, Teresa.
Thank you, Ogola. And I hope I'm clear to everyone. I think it was important for us to establish this link between displacement and mobility in the context of climate change. Also looking at the fact that the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees that does not recognize mobility in the context of climate change. as a situation where a person can seek for international protection. But for us as a region, we look at the OAU Refugee Convention, which also highlights mobility in the context of climate change or disaster displacement as refugee induced situations where a person can cross international borders. So for us as a region, we act on it, although our member states, none of the member states currently recognizes crossing borders due to disaster or climate change as refugees. What we do is the separate responses under the umbrella of climate-induced displacement and mobility in the context of climate change. So that's all I wanted to add to that slide. So I'll continue with the rest of my presentation next. In terms of regional policies and responses on forced displacement in the IGAD region, IGAD's work on forced displacement is guided by key thematic areas that provide the regional policy direction for member states. These priorities have shaped the development and adoption of important regional policy frameworks across the region. They have also guided some of the programmatic focuses of our projects as IGAD, both at the regional level and at the national level. So over time, member states have used these frameworks to strengthen their coordination, to strengthen their policy coherence, as well as harmonize responses, ensuring that these regional commitments are translated into action at the national level. Some of the examples that I can give include the adoption of key national policies to support displaced populations in some of our member states, including the Shirika Plan. And if you go to all these documents, to the preface of all these documents, you will see that they recognize the regional approach of IGAD and acknowledge specifically some of the policies that I will highlight next. Shirika Plan, for example, go back, my next. The Shirika Plan is one example for Kenya. The Marketed Roadmap is another example of an inclusion strategy that has been endorsed in Ethiopia. If you look at Somalia's refugee law, I think some of the regional work that has gone on in terms of displacement inspired the government of Somalia to come up with a refugee law, I think in 2024. For all this time, or from when displacement started in Somalia, Somalia had a law that is from the 80s or the 70s, but had not reviewed or updated that policy based on the current trends and what is going on in the region. So in 2024, because of the engagement that we have as a region and the work that is ongoing with other member states, I think we were able to have them come up and endorse their refugee law. Another example is the National Durable Solution Strategy for Sudan and South Sudan. Although the one for Sudan got into some hiccups because of the conflict that is ongoing, the one for South Sudan has taken off and is currently being implemented at the national level. Next. Not next. In addition, I'll go directly into some of the policies. All these policies that I will mention, they make up our comprehensive regional system that guides our response, as I mentioned earlier. So if you look at our thematic area on return and reintegration, you see that we have a Nairobi Declaration on Durable Solutions for Somali refugees and integration, as well as their plan of action. This was adopted in 2017, but ever since it has been expanded, because when it was adopted, it targeted returns to Somalia because of the situation that is ongoing at the time. But ever since, the strategy has been expanded and now has a more regional focus. So now it's just the Nairobi Declaration on Durable Solutions, not for a specific population, but for all of the IGAD region. And it established the foundation for coordinated return and reintegration. It speaks about the traditional durable solutions avenues, as well as how each member state and how IGAD as an institution, as the Secretariat of Member States, can support return and reintegration efforts for displaced persons in the region. If you look at education, which was also adopted in the same year, 2017, the Djibouti Declaration on Quality Education for Refugees and Returnees, as well as host communities, promotes inclusive access to education for refugee children from primary school, secondary school, tertiary, as well as skills building institutions such as vocational institutions. When we come to economic inclusion, we have the Kampala Declaration on Jobs, Livelihoods, and Self-Reliance, which just promotes economic inclusion for refugees and host communities. And this was adopted in 2019. It focuses on issues of self-reliance, as well as building the capacity of refugees to be able to fend for themselves and contribute economically to the countries that host them. So it includes access to banking, access to jobs, and such. When we go to return and reintegration, we have the Durable Solutions Initiative for Sudan and South Sudan. This came about in 2020 at a time where there was a lot of momentum from both the Khartoum process, which is the revitalized peace agreement, as well as the Juba peace agreement for Sudan. So it was just building on the momentum that was ongoing for peace processes between the two countries to support refugees and returnees to be able to return to their countries of origin. And if you look at the statistics that Obola shared earlier, you see that there was a lot of return during that year because of the policy work that was ongoing and some of the engagements that were ongoing for both Sudan and South Sudan. It also took up some of the already ongoing initiatives at national level, which between Sudan and South Sudan, there was a four freedoms agreement that focused on the right to establishment, the right to freedom of movement between the two countries. So it just built on that momentum to enable more refugees and returnees to return back to their countries of origin, and also reinforced regional cooperation on Sudan and South Sudan, which I mentioned earlier, have been one of the most long-standing cases of displacement for us as a region. And then we have under health, the Mombasa Declaration on Refugee and Cross-Border Health Initiatives, which was adopted in 2022. This just focuses on strengthening health coordination for displaced populations as well as cross-border communities. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes the category of cross-border communities does not fall squarely into them being refugees or IDPs or anything, because cross-border movements are usually very temporary in nature compared to refugee and IDP. So for the Mombasa Declaration, they also wanted to focus on how access to health can be improved at cross-border areas and in cross-border communities, looking that most of the IGAD member states have shared cross-border communities that just because of the border, that's where the delineation is, but they're the same community, they have the same culture, they have the same practices, they even have the same relatives. So the temporary nature of cross-border movements came into play in the Mombasa Declaration. And then finally, in 2023, the IGAD policy framework on refugee protection is a general protection framework, but also covers all of the thematic areas that I've highlighted above. It provides the most comprehensive regional framework up to date and strengthens asylum systems, protection standards, access to documentation, refugee engagement, and such. So for the IGAD policy framework on refugee protection, I feel like it's just a collection of all the thematic areas and the thematic declarations that we have been working on over the years, just for us to have one comprehensive regional framework for us to be guided by. Next. Finally, my last slide is on some of the regional initiatives that we have in terms of responding to forced displacement. First, we have the IGAD support platform, which brings together financial, technical, political support to address the needs of refugees, displaced persons, and host communities across the IGAD region. It was launched in 2019 at the Global Refugee Forum, and it just aims to support either financially. So it brings together different partners, UNDP, UNHCR, IGAD member states, and we have the same mechanism globally. We have the same mechanism. We have 3 other support platforms, one for the situation in Myanmar, I believe, and another one that has skipped my mind currently. But the difference between the IGAD support platform and the other support platforms that exist globally is that ours is a member state-led support platform. The other 2 are led by UNHCR, and so that makes a big difference for us and our member states, because as Ogola mentioned, when our work around forced displacement ensures a whole of society as well as whole of government approach. So the government taking leadership in the support platform, I think, is a key milestone that a lot of the regions also continue to aspire to and want to learn from the IGAD region on how it works for us and how we've been able to coordinate it all this time. Secondly, we have the IGAD Refugee Scholarship Program. So this is a program that provides access to higher education opportunities for refugees, and it helps them just to gain skills and build their future for potential return and reintegration in their countries of origin. I think when Austin was speaking, he mentioned it earlier about scholarship opportunities. So this is one of the flagship programs by His Excellency, the Executive Secretary, and it has supported a lot of young people, especially through universities across the IGAD region. So what IGAD does with the scholarship program is it partners with universities in the IGAD region and supports them to do placements for refugee scholars. So for example, if you're a Somali refugee and you want to go to university, you can apply for the scholarship and you'd probably go to Kampala International University or University in Khartoum. Before the conflict, there were so many students that were in school in Khartoum. So this is also another mechanism that we have in supporting forced displaced persons in our region. Finally, we have the Refugee Engagement Forum, and this is a platform that ensures that refugees' voices are included in policy discussions, in policy development, as well as making sure that affected communities and refugees, returnees, host communities are not just beneficiaries, but are also active participants in these policy making and decision making processes. And for us, this platform has been very instrumental, looking now especially that the world is going towards the localization agenda. We feel as IGAD, it is more appropriate for us to equip these refugees, because the refugees are doctors, they are lawyers, they are teachers, they are people that have skills. So equipping them with the capacity to be able to advocate for themselves and take up space to speak for themselves is something that we find very instrumental in our work. And the Refugee Engagement Forum is also the first of its kind, I think, in the continent. If I'm not, it's not even globally. I don't think there's a REC or a continent that has their own Refugee Engagement Forum. So it brings together differently refugee leaders, RLOs, women-led organizations, as well as organizations that are led by marginalized populations and marginalized ethnic groups in our region, just to ensure that their voices are also brought to the center of the discussions and they can be able to contribute to the programming, which ultimately affects them at the national level. So I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much, and I hope this gives you some basic understanding and also supports your work in terms of reporting on refugee situations, on displacement generally. I think as Ephraim mentioned in his presentation, we didn't highlight some of the things that you can do to better report, but I think this presentation highlights to you that beyond being displaced persons, refugees are people that they are people and
Madam, your voice is not heard.
they have economic. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, very
Yes,
well.
please,
Okay,
Good.
so we just wanted to reiterate the fact that refugees are people with skills. They were doctors before, they were lawyers before, and they bring a lot of contributions. So when we are bringing these stories to light, it is good also to portray some of the positivity that refugees bring to the countries of asylum, and some of the things that host communities and countries of asylum can benefit from them. So thank you so much, and I hope the presentation was eye-opening. Thank you so much.
Elaborate enough. Thank you so much, Teresa and Charles, and for giving us another elaborate presentation on the area of forced displacement. You attempted to summarize a big portfolio, and I think you've given it some good justice. And for our colleagues, there is still a lot that you can pick up on the Social Development Division page on the IGAD Secretariat website. I must apologize that our time has extended slightly beyond what we had planned, and please bear up with me. This is the concluding session that we are having. We are having the plenary and the way forward, and we will close this engagement. But briefly, to thank you, Teresa and Charles, but I know that our colleague Yemi, as you had highlighted earlier, part of the work also is also to support some of the areas that Teresa has highlighted, the areas of TVET, skilling some of these displaced persons, and also empowering the refugees such that they don't become burdens. They can contribute to the economies of the places where they live. So Yemi Sarah, part of your work on the Kampala Declaration, and maybe any other highlights you would like to give in about 2 minutes. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Thank you, colleagues, for highlighting the displacement portfolio. From my side, key message that I would like to highlight is, in most cases, refugees are perceived as a risk, unfortunately, even though they're not. So the key message that we need to look at is refugees have potentials. They have skills, knowledge, expertise that can be tapped. They are also taxpayers. So I think when we highlight the work of refugees, or when we talk about refugees, we need to look at them as that they actually like any of us. So they should not be treated as risk. The reason I am highlighting is one of the key challenges refugees face is when they try to access bank, like this is, for instance, bank loans from a bank. For an average person, if you have a collateral, it's easy to get. But for refugees, no. Most banks, microfinance institutions look at them that they will disappear, run away, and they consider them as flight risk within quotes. But there are actually assessments that shows that refugees, when it comes to once they borrow, the loan repayment is higher than host communities. So that would be my message. So when you try to report, please look at them as an opportunity, and then maybe help us that with the different partners that refugees have potentials that's untapped that could actually benefit countries. Secondly, you have seen the figures, you have seen the data, you have seen the challenge and you have also heard the different policy frameworks that are both at regional level, but also at national level. So countries have lots of policies, framework, road plans, action plans, you name it. But understanding these policies by the government, by refugees themselves, by partners. When I say partners, I'm looking at development partners, private sector, because we also need to work with private sector, is not to the level. So which means, of course, this policy implementation are lagging behind. So you can help us by creating awareness on because at your member states level, you can find all the policy frameworks that are in place, because this helps countries, because you've seen that most of these policies came because the lack of funding from external source has been drastically reduced, and we need the support. So that means at the end of the day, most of the member states, our IGAD member states, are the one hosting millions of refugees, and they cannot do it alone. So that would be my second message. And then third is maybe private sector, because the different policy frameworks, when you look at long-term solutions, it's not only government, but also we need the private sectors to come and invest. And we need because in most cases, private sector view refugees or even refugee camps as not to their level, because they are not making profit out of it. So maybe you can help us on your reporting and how we can attract the private sector to come and work with private sector, with refugees. Like I said, refugees have skills. So those would be my message. And over to you, Bob.
Thank you, Yemi. And for you used just a fraction of the time that we had. I can see Fabius's hand is up. Fabius, I will come to you. But Teresa, please rebound on the presentation that you gave.
Not a rebound or a presentation. I just wanted to mention that all of the declarations and the frameworks that were mentioned in the presentation are all available on the IGAD website. If you need to read them or you need to access them, they are all freely accessible and downloadable in PDF on the IGAD website. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And please follow up and pick up on all these frameworks. Now, for the split second that I have before I conclude this second session, one of the statistics that Ogora presented, and rightly so if you go on the internet, 1 in 4 displaced people within the region and in Africa, one of 4 displaced people is a child. So we have a case of so many displaced children. We have, even previously when we are talking about issues of migration, we have the case, these are very specific cases of children on the move. And I have Mnet on the line also joining us this afternoon. Mnet, you have just 2 minutes to highlight for our colleagues in the media some an area that they could also as well pay special attention to.
Thank you very much, Bob, and thank you very much, colleagues, for making sure that children are highlighted in your presentation, despite my absence. This shows that we are properly mainstreaming child-sensitive approach into our programming and making sure that children are getting the right attention that they deserve, because the figures, as you said, Bob, and as Charles also mentioned, speak for themselves. We have staggering and compelling figures across the continent, including in the IGAD region. When you see child migration, 25% of African migrants are children, and most are from Eastern Africa.
25%.
25%, as you recalled, and children make up over 50% of migrant population in Uganda, over 40% of migrant population in Ethiopia and Sudan. So this is a very relevant question to look at closely, from a migration perspective. From a displacement perspective, this is also true. 50%, like almost half of the population of refugee population are mostly from Eastern Africa. We examined the figures for internally displaced population. The most contributing countries for internally displaced population are in Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia. 1 in 4 internally displaced children in Africa lives in Sudan. So we have figures supporting the cause that children should be given visibility in the reporting, in media, in reports and statistics. Something that I would also highlight, just as Yemi was mentioning, children could also be expressing and featuring a lot of resilience in all of this horror, I may say, for a lack of better word. So it's also important to report, to give the voice to the voiceless, report accurately on their plea, on their issues, concerns, but it's also important to highlight their resilience, their agency, and give them the voice to also be part of the solutions of these issues. Thank you. I won't take too much of your time. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eminet, who is our lead on child programming at the Secretariat. Thank you so much, colleagues. We have such a wonderful conversation the second session on displacement. And I hope, Teresa, Ogola, you are not very far away from the microphones because I have hands here and I will quickly pick them up. Shambel, Benalfiu, Fabius, Mulongo, and a couple of other hands that I will see. I will just pick you up first. Let me begin with Shambel.
Hello.
Yes, Shambel.
Hello.
Yes, Shambel, you have just a minute to ask.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed, all of you, my dear brothers and sisters here in Africa. This is Shambel bin Al-Falem from Ethiopia. I'm a lecturer of public relations and strategic communication at Jijga University here in Ethiopia, and also doctoral candidate in state communication and digital public diplomacy, and also researcher on media and conflict resolution. Thank you very much for the organization that you are providing to us. I think this is the right moment and the right time to discuss for the one of the brilliant issue or the big elephant in the room, which is, peace and security, especially taking in our mind the future generation, the child and the security, refugee and other. This is the right time. So we need to discuss and to bring a real solution for the young generation. My question is, I think we need to discuss what is the root cause, the fundamental cause. Just we don't know. We can't move around the bush, right? Unless we can understand and solve the root cause and the fundamental cause, just only by discussing the immediate cause and other, we can't bring a change. So we need to fight a real fight to bring a real change in collaboration with different intergovernmental organizations like IGAD, AU, and other concerned institutions. And also we need to give great attention for also indigenous institutions, right? Those are the most important, and they are playing a great role to bring sustainable space building and to reconcile the conflict and to digging out the real issue and to solve the conflict of interest. And my question lastly, as a communication expert, and also currently I'm participating in different organizations regarding how we can develop the national policy, especially in unemployment and youth. From that understanding, I have one question. In the Horn of Africa, especially in my mind, Eastern Africa, how we can prepare a strategy to communicate a policy? Do you think that is there a problem of a policy or policy communication gap? What is our real vacuum? Is it a policy? Is there a prevalence of or a policy, or is there a misgap between, a policy communication, all right? So I think in my mind, in my understanding, we need to communicate our policy effectively. But we have a policy, we have the law, we have the constitution. Every country here in the Horn of Africa or in the East Africa, we have our own constitution, we have our own policy that directly concern about the citizen, human rights, and everything. But I think our vacuum or common limitation is policy communication. So we need
Policy
to,
communication, yes. Yeah.
policy communication. I think we
just
need to
want
communicate
to-
our
I-
policies effectively.
Surely. I just want to just pick you up from there such that we can pick a couple of other colleagues, given that we are back.
Yes,
a
thank you
little
very
bit
much. This is
behind
what
the
I wanted to add as a question. So how you can, what you refer to communicate the
Exactly.
policy that we have. But
Yes.
it's not expected to develop another policy. We have the policy, right?
Surely. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shambel. And policy or policy communication. And I think this is for every one of us who is over here. Animu, your hand is up. Maybe Shambel, your hand, you could
Yes.
put it down. Yeah, Animu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nwajira. I wanted to find out, I had actually asked the question in the chat previously. I noticed that in the categories of the persons that for the IGAD Media Awards, you only spoke about refugees, internally displaced persons, and host communities. So I wonder, especially in regards to statelessness, and it is good that Teresa really raised the prevalence of statelessness in at least 4 IGAD countries: Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Uganda. And statelessness, especially in a prolonged nature, is considered a form of displacement or internal or post displacement. Was this an oversight in the terms of the organizers? Can media houses or people who want to make entries do stories that affect stateless people as well as part of these media IGAD awards? Yeah, and then maybe the second one was more on policy and communication, specifically reporting on the protocol, the African Union Protocol on the right to nationality and ending statelessness in Africa, signed 17th of February 2024. I think, as many might know on the platform, I have a lived experience of statelessness, but also with a landmark decision from the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. But we found, especially in my experience, that, sorry, I'm in a noisy background, that it is very difficult for journalists to write about statelessness without confusing it for maybe being a refugee or stuff like that. So, is there something that can be done, especially on the part of IGAD, given that statelessness is so prevalent in the region? There's sort of communication training on the protocol, because right now the only protocol that everybody is using is the UN protocols. But maybe this would also encourage member states to adopt the protocol, because so far no member states in the continent, forget about the region where this is very prevalent, has adopted. So maybe some communication or education, because I also found that journalists actually don't have an understanding of what statelessness is.
Sure.
They oftentimes, especially stateless in city, not in a migratory context, so not refugee stateless people. Yeah. So is there something that can be done, especially from the IGAD communications perspective, to raise awareness on the issue, but also capacity building and communicating, how you communicate
the issue?
Yes.
Statelessness. Thank you, Animu, and thank you for highlighting. And I think most times when we are giving our statistics on displaced persons, from time to time also there is highlights on the issue of statelessness. Teresa, would you quickly respond to Animu on that issue of the gaps in data, and especially also policies on the stateless persons?
Thank you, Bob.
Oh, yeah.
I hope I'm clear.
Yes.
I wrote down some of the questions that also speak to my presentation, so I'll just try to quickly go through all of them. I'll start with Animu's question. I think that was definitely an oversight on our end because, as I mentioned in the presentation, our responses in forced displacement also include issues around statelessness. So I think it fits well within that category, and maybe my colleagues Austin and Bob, as well as Lucas, can maybe include a guidance note in the selection of the stories to ensure that stories around statelessness are also included in that category. When it comes to our engagement around statelessness regionally and nationally, we have different areas that we support our member states. At the regional level, we work with UNHCR and the Africa Union to mobilize and support our member states in the adoption and the implementation of the AU protocol. I think it's a new document that our member states are still trying to understand. So what we are doing right now is just advocacy and bringing them, rallying them around the need to ratify and adopt that protocol, and it's relevant, especially for these 4 countries that I mentioned in the region. We are also at the national level, we are also encouraging wider ratification and accession, building on the positive momentum that is ongoing, especially, I think you mentioned you're from South Sudan. South Sudan just recently, I think last year, ratified the conventions on statelessness. I think it was the only country in the region that had not ratified those conventions, and so we feel like that is a very good step for South Sudan as one of our member states. Additionally, also in terms of regional dialogue and technical meetings, maybe sometime in the next few months, we're planning on organizing regional consultations and meetings to strengthen the understanding of statelessness, share experiences, and also to harmonize approaches across member states. I think you've mentioned that, and you know that there's a lot of reluctance with member states to acknowledge the issues of statelessness and to acknowledge that there are persons that might be at risk of statelessness in their countries. So for us, we take that opportunity to educate our member states and to explain, because sometimes it's just a matter of explanation, because most of them don't understand how somebody can exist and be stateless, So just taking the opportunity to support them and strengthen their understanding. Also share experiences from other countries where stateless persons have been issued documentation. If you look at Kenya, the Makonde were stateless for a long time, but now they've been accepted and they've been given documentation in Kenya. If you look at, there are I think 3 different categories, and the Nubians are also going through the same situation in Kenya. So there's a lot of room for us to share experiences as a region. And can you hear me, Bob?
Hello?
Can you hear me, Bob?
Yes, I do.
Yes, so I was saying there's a lot of room for us as the IGAD region to learn from each other and share experiences for countries that are still facing the challenges of understanding the issues around statelessness. Finally, I think the first person asked 2 questions. I'll try to just in 1 minute each. In terms of whether there's a policy vacuum or there's a communication vacuum, I think for us as IGAD, I don't think we have the space to do more policies. I feel like our policy work speaks for itself. And what we need to work on is the policy communication by strengthening our coordination, which we're already doing. We're already strengthening our coordination mechanisms at the national level and linking them at national and regional level so that we are not duplicating. We are also working on sharing knowledge between the member states, building institutional capacities, as well as creating inclusive platforms that connect policy commitments with national implementation and community voices. So I think for us, what we are working on currently is to address that policy vacuum that somebody else might feel is there. But the policies, I feel like we are right on track and we've been doing really well over the last few years. Finally, in terms of addressing root causes, I didn't mention that in my presentation, but we address root causes in displacement in each of the thematic areas that I mentioned earlier. If you look at the different declarations, all of them have different aspects that contribute to addressing root causes. So to tackle the underlying drivers of conflict, of climate vulnerability, of poverty, through regional cooperation, for example, in the free movement the protocol that my colleagues on migration spoke about. If you look at the Nairobi Declaration, it speaks about addressing the root causes and peace and security issues around prevention and conflict resolution through mediation, peace building. If you look at the IGAD policy framework on refugee protection, it also speaks about addressing root causes of not just conflict and climate change, but also not only conflict, but also climate change through strengthening drought resilience, early warning systems, supporting sustainable natural resource management. So all of our policies have an element of addressing root causes. And as my colleague Charles Ogola mentioned earlier, in as much as we work under migration and forced displacement, we have other specialized institutions that focus on, for example, ICPAC focuses on climate change. So it will definitely look at addressing the root causes of climate vulnerability. We have a division that is just dedicated to peace and security. So they will look at how they can support conflict resolution and supporting peace and security efforts in our region. So I think maybe we didn't mention it, but IGAD is definitely doing the work around addressing root causes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. And maybe just for an addition to one of those institutions, as we discussed the free movement of persons regime, ICPAD hosts the other aspect of the transhumans, the people who move with their animals. And, we across the borders, we have so many, the Turkana, Karamoja, the Moyare group. Pastoralists continue moving in season and out of season. So the transhumance is part of the free movement governance. Thank you so much. And I definitely want to highlight two areas which I could think we have within the aspect of the way forward on our agenda. And one of them is being proposed by Sarah Mawerere. And Sarah Mawerere says, could you please consider a training for journalists and other media practitioners in the IGAD region on the issues of migration? And I could add even also on forced displacement. And please keep us who have attended this meeting for future engagements. We have your registration, and we will have you in the pool of our journalists in the region. This is a very good suggestion in our way forward. But also maybe Austin, as we conclude on this, as we head towards maybe some of the other areas that you've picked out on the way forward. Some people have already submitted and they are asking, is there a way someone can record a submission? Or in light of this, I would like to make another submission. So, Austin? You unmuted and muted again, I think.
Yes, sorry, I was just consulting with Lucas if it's possible, but I think that we'll have to perhaps create a special maybe process for this, but I don't think there's a way to recall a submission an entry that has been made.
Okay.
Perhaps we might form in the near future that someone will just perhaps go through it, fill it, and request for a recall, and then we will delete that entry from our end.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes, please.
Bob, I would like, sorry to drag you behind, but just to help me, I dropped off. I had asked you a question, but it seems when you were, is it Austin? Or when he was trying to answer back, I dropped off. For example, I asked that I could be having like 3 radio stories, but they fit in different categories. Like one story is on migration, another story maybe is on indigenous language. Can I submit them or it's not allowed? Vice versa. I could be having a print, but print, they are all print stories. But one fits on migration, another fits on just climate. And so please advise. I missed the reply.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Over to you, Austin.
Yes, Sarah, you are only allowed to submit one entry per person. And it's just one entry on one category and one entry for the IGAD Media Awards 2026.
Thank you very much.
I'll advise you to probably choose your best piece and make a submission for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Sarah. Thank you very much. And
your contact, please. If we are to reach out at times, you don't know the contact, maybe you can reach out, especially for the Kampala office. IGAD.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I'm just in the chats looking at earlier on. I think Austin shared the 2 emails, especially for experts. It is over here. And then of media awards at IGAD.int. And yes, yeah, it is in the chat. And then shared mine just in case you are looking for an expert in this area of migration and forced displacement, then we are able to pick it out. Now, colleagues, allow me to conclude our sessions this afternoon, looking at the way forward. And, Austin, still, I want to call you up on this one. As we discuss the way forward, there are a couple of areas that people had picked out. I look to have closed my agenda, but yes,
yes, Bob. Thank you very much. I don't know if Kosivi, you're ready to present on the way forward. Okay, Kosivi, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you so much, Austin. Thank you, Bob. Can you please see my screen?
Yeah, just put it in full screen and we'll be good to go.
Okay, so this is the first screen. Can you see it?
Oh,
is it okay?
Yes, we're good now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Kosivi Dutouvo. I am the IGO Technical Officer for the Free Movement and Transhumance Phase 2 project. I'm based in Djibouti, and I'm very pleased to take up this session to go through some key
Hello, bro,
way
please
forward.
add your mic. It's not allowed.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
that's better. That's better.
Yeah, you're audible, right? Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Just put us again in full screen.
Full screen, okay. Is it okay? Can I go ahead, please?
Very well.
Yes,
very well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I have the privilege to take you through some key forwards, captures from the session, the presentations, in terms of recommendation came out from the different sessions. So I've captured eight points that can be summarized as key way forward for us. So the first one is, as a media professional, we need to promote balanced reporting beyond crisis analysis and highlight the developmental, economic, and social dimension of migration and free movement alongside humanitarian and security issues. The second point is to strengthen the responsible use of migration data. Our colleague Charles Ogoro came on on data issues, so we need to strengthen the responsible use of migration data by promoting evidence-based journalism and encouraging journalists to rely on credible, verified, and updated sources when reporting on migration-related issues. The third point is that as a media professional, we need to promote human dignity in migration reporting, okay, by ensuring that the stories are reported in a manner that respect the right, dignity, and lived experience of migrants, refugees, pastoralists, and host communities. And also, the following point is to enhance accuracy and ethical standards in migration reporting to continue capacity building on facts checking, verification and information, and adherence to professional and ethical journalism principles. We also, my CTA came on the terminologies. So we need to promote the use of common migration terminology by encouraging media practitioners to adopt harmonized terminology consistent with international standards and the IGAD policy framework to improve the quality and consistencies of reporting across the region. And also, we need to strengthen collaboration between IGAD and media institutions and also the other stakeholders like IGO, IUM to facilitate regular information sharing, access to technical resources, and continued dialogue on migration, free movement of persons and transhumans. And also, we have to establish a regional community of practice for journalists reporting on migration and free movement to encourage peer learning as essential to exchange of good practice and sustainable professional engagement. So the last point, but not the least, is to support the institutionalization of the IGAD Media Award as a regional platform for recognizing excellence in responsible, accurate, and solution-oriented reporting on migration, labor mobility, and regional integrations. So these are the 8 points captured from the presentations as key way forward in terms of recommendations. Thank you so much. Over to you, please, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kosivi, and thank you, colleagues, for being here. I just wanted to see if there is perhaps any addition from our participants this afternoon on the way forward. I think one that we will be able to update, going forward is what was suggested earlier by Sarah for us to have multiple sessions of training journalists on migration and displacement reporting. And I think that is something that we can have. Thank you, Kosivi. He takes note. I just want to give a chance, maybe if there is anyone more on the recommendations.
Bob,
yes, Austin?
Yes, and I think this issue of this request to have more training sessions, this directly goes to your department. So if we can at least have quarterly trainings or monthly, and if possible, we harvest this list of emails that we collected through the registration platform and communicate regularly on issues of migration and forced displacement. The other item that I think that should also feature in the way forward is what Animu and Teresa raised, the issue of statelessness, which I think we might be required at a later stage either to have a dedicated panel during the knowledge share fair or have a note to the jurors to consider stories around this issue. Thank you. Over to you, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin. Quarterly or monthly training on issues migration and forced displacement. I think that I have noted, and of course, the issue of statelessness, which really has been a very good eye-opener, I think, from Animo. And thank you so much, colleagues. Nancy says, can we also share our email so that you reach us out for more stories? Now, part of the registration is you provided your name and your email, and we are able to access your emails. And through that emails, we will also share the link of the resources, especially the resources that were shared here, and also perhaps some of the extra resources that we think are going to be very important in the preparation of the stories and the content that you will be able to submit for the media awards. I think we have come to the tail end of our conversation this afternoon. I will, from the ILO team, we will have Ephraim, who will give us the concluding remarks. So we have two resources from the ILO team. They will give us representing the regional director. Ephraim, I request that you give our remarks, our concluding remarks. And then before we break out and break off, I would ask that every one of us is going to share their screen if you are in position to, such that we can have a group photo. Such that we can have this on record. So let me have Ephraim, and then we would have a group photo shortly. Ephraim.
Dear Bob, please let me step in because Ephraim stepped out because he has to settle some office issues. So yeah, so he just excused himself. Yeah, but if you can allow me to put few words on behalf of Ephraim and IGO.
Please.
Yeah, oh, okay. Thank you so much. Dear colleagues, dear participants, on behalf of IGO, I would like to thank you for this, for your active participations on this webinar. And also, we want to express our gratitude to all the specialist experts that take us through the different sessions. We have been very happy to touch base on this webinar, and we can say it's just a beginning of a start of a long road to go. So we are together. We have to collaborate. We have to work on this question of migration, which is a key issue for regional integrations. So let's be in touch and have a nice afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kosivi and the IRO team. Thank you very much, Homa and your team, and we appreciate so much. And I know you've given the concluding remarks. Austin, you have anything else? Okay, thank you very much. And we will put on our cameras. Let me request you to put on your camera. We'll take a group photo from across the board. And when I have 75% of my screen, when I can see 75% of the faces, then we'll take, thank you, Mohammed Osman, Mildred, Sabwani, thank you so much. Irene Jackson, I can see you. Animu, Shise, Patience, you're over there. And okay, so who else do I can see our colleague over there, Pech Benjamin, Ibrahim, you are still around. Sinia Mase, thank you. Abdikani Ahmed, and that is Lucas over there. So I think we are ready. We can take a picture and then we'll return to our colleagues from Somalia and say Happy Independence Day. It is their 66th Independence Day today. So Lucas, I hope when you have the picture, you can just put your thumb up. and will be good. Shambel, we have you. Kwabe Victor, we have you. Timothy Papa, we have you. Mohammed Abdi, we have you. And I think we have quite a couple of people with us, and there are those. We're good. I think we are good. I think we are good. I have also a screenshot on mine. Wow, quite a number of people joining in. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to hold you so much. And thank you so much for...
Are we done, Bob? Are we done?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Thank you,
Thank you very much.
And I can see you
Thank you
joined
very
outside
much
the
indeed.
building.
Thank you.
A good afternoon, a good
Thank you very
evening
much.
from wherever you're joining in.
Thank you
And
very
I'll
much.
see you next time.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you and
Yeah.
bye-bye.
Happy Independence Day, Somalia.
Good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Very much.
Bye-bye.
Africa is home.
Bye.
Africa is home. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Shushai. Thank you very much. Bro, thank you very much.
Shambel, I say hi to you. Shambel, how are you?
Okay. Thank you very much, bro. I didn't see what happened to, man.
I'm going to see you too.
Thank you very much, all of you.